Oh yeah, that's smack down. Right, they're knocking that down.
Good afternoon. I would like to open a public hearing concerning the addition of predominantly viable agricultural land to Agricultural District Number 1 and Agricultural District Number 2 in Tompkins County. If there is anyone here to speak on that topic, please approach the microphone. We'll just wait about a minute and see if there's anyone here to speak on that on the public hearing today. Okay, we're going to close the public hearing and welcome to the Tuesday, May 19th, 2026. It is 5:32 and welcome to the Tompkins County Legislature. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. If we could have a roll call of members, please.
Dan Wakeman.
Here.
Irene Weiser.
Here.
Christy Bianconi.
Here.
Travis Brooks.
Here.
Randy Brown.
Here.
Deborah Dawson.
Here.
Judith Hubbard.
Here.
John Hunt.
Here.
Greg Mezzi.
Here.
Rachel Oslin is asked to be excused this evening. Iris Packman.
Here.
Veronica Pillar.
Here.
Lee Shirtliff.
Here.
Mike Sigler is also asked to be excused this evening. Adam Vinson.
Here.
Shauna Black.
Here.
14 members present.
Thank you. We have 3 proclamations this evening, and I have asked 3 different members of our legislature to read those. We are doing some abridged versions since they're all rather long, and I really want to try and get our staff as well as everyone here out of, I don't dare say this in public, but out of this meeting a little bit early because it is a voting night. Our school board members are running for election, and I want to make sure that everyone can hit the polls. So why don't we move on to our Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander American Heritage Month proclamation, and Veronica Pillar has volunteered to do that.
Sure. Whereas the vast diversity of languages, religions, and cultural traditions of Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander, AANHPI, people strengthens the fabric of American society. And whereas Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders have endured and overcome hardship and heartache. In the earliest years, tens of thousands of gold rush pioneers, coal miners, transcontinental railroad builders, as well as farm and orchard laborers were subject to unjust working conditions, prejudice, and discrimination. Even in the darkness of the Exclusion Act and Japanese internment, Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders have persevered, providing for their families and creating opportunities for their children. And whereas amidst these struggles, AANHPI Americans have contributed in great and significant ways to all aspects of society. They have created works of literature and art, thrived as athletes, and prospered in the world of academia. And whereas people of AANHPI heritage have played a vital role in our nation's economic and technological growth, they are serving in positions of leadership within the government more than ever before, and they have defended the United States from threats at home and abroad, serving our nation with valor. And whereas Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders have persevered despite anti-Asian sentiment that surged throughout the COVID-19 pandemic as a result of racism, misinformation, and xenophobia. And whereas the theme for AANHPI Heritage Month 2026 is Power in Unity, Strengthening Communities Together, which highlights the importance of leveraging collective action, sharing community stories, and acting as bridge builders to foster resilience and connections. And whereas Asians, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders make up approximately 11% of residents in Tompkins County, contributing to the intellectual, academic, literary, cultural, and economic vibrancy and diversity of our community, with art, businesses, shops, restaurants, and festivals celebrating cultures, cuisines, and events from regions across Asia and the Pacific. Now therefore be it resolved that the Tompkins County Legislature does hereby proclaim the month of May 2026 as Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander American Heritage Month in Tompkins County, and that together with our entire community, we join in celebration and recognition of the Asian and Pacific Islander American community. And I know some folks were planning to come to receive the proclamation from IAAA, Ithaca Area Asian American Association, but I don't know if they are here. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we will make sure it gets to the proper people. Thank you. Okay. Next, we have Deborah Dawson, and she has volunteered to bring forth the Memorial Day proclamation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Whereas Memorial Day stands as a beacon of remembrance, calling us to honor the courageous men and women of the United States Armed Forces who gave their last full measure of devotion so that we might live in freedom. And whereas the valor, dedication, and unwavering spirit of our fallen heroes continue to inspire us to live with purpose, to serve with integrity, and to safeguard the ideals of democracy, justice, and peace. And whereas the families of those heroes carry a legacy of sacrifice that is etched into the heart of our country and nation, and their strength and resilience remind us of the enduring power of love and honor. And whereas the Memorial Day 2026 is not only a time to remember the past, but also a call to action for the present, to serve our communities, to support those who serve and are serving in our nation's military forces, and to live lives worthy of the sacrifice made on our behalf. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Tompkins County Legislature hereby proclaims May 25th, 2026 as Memorial Day in Tompkins County. Resolved further that the Tompkins County Legislature encourages all residents to pause or join in local ceremonies at 11 a.m. on May 25th and to carry forward the legacy of courage, service, and sacrifice that defines our great nation.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right.
My pleasure.
Oh, we have to.
Yes.
I'd like to say a few words.
Sure. There we go. All right. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
We'll make sure we're all here. All right. Thank you this evening. Memorial Day is definitely, for some people, it's the kickoff for the barbecue season. That's what everyone says. But for a lot of families, this is the time that we do take time to recognize that the nature of military service performs for this country. Whether or not we agree with everything the military does, we still know that we have people who have raised their hands and put the uniform on, and regardless of where they've been stationed, they've put themselves potentially in harm's way in service to our country. So this is a weekend that we do honor and salute those who did not come home, and to make sure that people understand that military service is something that not everyone does. But the people who do, we do owe us gratitude, a sense of gratitude. And for our Gold Star families who have one less person at the table, we definitely want to make sure that we honor them. Please, as we said in the in the proclamation, 10 o'clock in Newfield, 11 o'clock in Ithaca, Dryden, and Groton will be ceremonies honoring Memorial Day. Also this weekend, if you're really looking for something to get into, the veteran organizations are organizing their distribution where they're having flags put in the cemeteries, the graves of veterans who are there. So I know they're always looking for help, so if you would like to, that would be a great way to honor this Memorial Day. And to the legislature, thank you for this proclamation.
Great. Thank you. Next, we have Irene Weiser, who has volunteered to speak a little bit about Older Americans Month proclamation. Irene?
Yeah, thanks. Whereas Tompkins County is home to a vibrant and growing population of older adults who enrich our community through their knowledge, experience, service, and civic engagement. And whereas the Tompkins County Office for the Aging is dedicated to promoting healthy and independent aging and to providing core and critical services under the Older Americans Act in partnership with their aging services contractors, Lifelong and FoodNet Meals on Wheels. And whereas together they ensure older adults have opportunities and access to social engagement, nutrition services, support, and meaningful connections to incorporate preventative health and wellness activities to maintain strength, independence, resilience, and healthy aging. And whereas Tompkins County remains committed to supporting policies, programs, and partnerships that empower older adults to thrive, remain independent, and stay connected to their communities. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Tompkins County Legislature does hereby proclaim the month of May 2026 as Older Americans Month.
Hi, good evening. Lisa Monroe, our Director of the County Office for the Aging, unfortunately could not be here tonight, but did share some prepared remarks that I'm happy to read. Thank you for this recognition of the older adults and for supporting us and supporting them. We had our celebration of Older Americans Month annual luncheon last week, which was a nice event, and we recognized this year's outstanding older adult volunteers. As the proclamation says, this year's theme is championing your health. I wanted to highlight our contracted partners who provide some of our most important core services critical to our mission and help older adults stay healthy and independent. We have our Executive Director of Lifelong, Liza Berger. Lifelong coordinates Medicare health insurance counseling program and health promotion, fitness, recreation, education, and social programming. And FoodNet, who administers senior nutrition program, home delivered and congregate meals, nutrition education and counseling. And we have Jill Seeley, the registered dietitian from FoodNet, here tonight as well. And she ensures we meet all of our regulatory requirements and beyond. We'd love to have each of you say a few words if you'd like. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jill Seeley, and I'm the registered dietitian for FoodNet Meals on Wheels. Our work is to execute the senior nutrition program for the Tompkins County Office for the Aging. A typical day for us starts with the cooks at about 6 in the morning who come in to start preparing these foods, or these meals, that get distributed to over 300 individuals every day through our home delivered meal program and our community dining sites. That comes out to, in 2025, 116,000 meals to 633 people. Most people are aware of the concept of Meals on Wheels, so I really want to just highlight a few things that emphasize the importance of programs like this. My job as the registered dietitian is to ensure that the meals that are provided to these folks are at least 1/3 of what an older adult needs every day. I assess that each meal is at least 650 calories and less than 800 milligrams of sodium. I create a menu that includes whole grains, fruits, vegetables, protein, and milk to make sure that we're promoting health across this population. I also provide nutrition education on things like managing chronic diseases through your diet, physical activity, and food safety, and I'm available for one-on-one individualized nutrition counseling should our folks want that. Lastly, I complete the oversight for the County Office for the Aging to make sure that our kitchen and our staff are following food safety guidelines. So not only are these folks getting a nutritious meal, but they're also getting one that is made, stored, and delivered in a safe manner. It doesn't just stop at a meal, though. Of those 633 people, over half of them live alone. Our drivers are sometimes the only person that this individual sees in a day. Once the drivers go out on their routes, they come back to my office and they let me know if something seemed off or different about folks so that we can intervene, or if there's an unmet need that this person needs in order to stay in their homes. Additionally, when folks come onto our program, I do a home visit when they join the home delivered meal program, and then annually, so I can make sure that any unmet need that they have or any supports that they are missing, a referral goes out so that they can get them. All this, the nutrition standards, in addition to the safety checks, allow us to reach our mission of allowing folks to age in place with dignity and independence. While we all celebrate older adults in May, FoodNet gets the pleasure of doing this every day. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Liza Berger, and I'm the executive director over at Lifelong, just down the street from here. We're a community center for adults 50 and older, and we partner quite a bit with the Office for the Aging to provide vital support to help older adults in our community to stay active and independent and healthy. I wanted to thank the legislature for your supportive funding for our small nonprofit, and I recognize that there have been several legislators that have been great cheerleaders in other ways to Lifelong for the work that we do and our space needs for our programming. So as mentioned earlier, the Older Americans Month theme this year is Champion Your Health, which clearly is way more than medical care. It includes connection, engagement, and access to resources. So I just wanted to briefly share about how Lifelong impacts the health and well-being of older adults in our community. Right now we have nearly 1,000 current members of Lifelong, and our membership has grown 11% in the past year. We also have really tried to incorporate more programs for the general public so that people can dip their toe in and learn what we're all about. We help with connection and engagement. We have over 20 different social groups that offer a sense of community and help prevent social isolation. We have year-round health and wellness opportunities, everything from strength training to Tai Chi, offered both downtown and at several different locations throughout the county so that folks can attend programs in their own neighborhoods. We also have mental health support by way of different classes that we offer, meditation, mindfulness. We have a new program coming called Exhale Thursdays that you're all welcome to attend. We also offer creative arts programs, clay studio, open paint studio, and our Play It Again theater troupe. In fact, Dan Klein just had his first performance with this group as part of Spring Rites, so that was great. Our lifelong learning aspect of our programming includes catalogs that we put out 3 times a year, typically with about 50 offerings in each catalog, from everything from Shakespeare to learning to play ukulele or learning about AI. We have support services, tech support for help people set up social media or to learn about your phone, which might initially appear smarter than you are. We have support groups for individuals with Parkinson's or those living with chronic illnesses or caregivers of individuals with Alzheimer's. And 2 of the cornerstone programs that we provide, one just wrapped up for the season, is our free tax preparation. We do over 900 tax returns in an 11-week period, all with volunteers and 1 part-time staff member. And we also offer free Medicare counseling to help people make informed decisions and save them on their health care costs. So I just wanted to thank you for your support of our small nonprofit and just say that it's great to be part of a community that values older adults and celebrates and supports them. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, just to announce that this evening we will not have executive session. I'm sure everyone's very disappointed in that. Yeah, give it up. And we are going to reorder business a little bit. You might notice that Mayor Rob Cantalmo is here in our audience. We're going to have a discussion about and an update about Asteri, and he's going to provide some updates from the city end. We also have Skip Parr, who is here to provide some whole health updates. And I would like to have public privilege of the floor occur next, and then municipal officials. I believe Kayla Matos is here from the City of Ithaca to provide some City of Ithaca updates. And then if we could move, my chair's report is actually going to be the Asteri update. And then we will have legislative privilege of the floor, if that's all right with everyone. Okay, let's move forward to public privilege of the floor. Just a few rules for speaking on the floor. I agree to a three-minute time limit. I agree not to raise my voice. I agree not to use lewd, obscene, profane, slanderous, or libelous language or speak or act in a manner that would tend to incite a breach of the peace. Number 4, I agree not to speak about county personnel matters. Personnel matters include comments about the job performance of named county employees other than elected officials. Number 5, after 3 minutes, I agree to leave the microphone and yield the floor. Transferring time to another person is not permitted. Number 6, I agree to be courteous and not make comments, gestures, outbursts, or other disruptions while other members of the public or legislators are speaking. And number 7, I agree that if I cause a disruption and am asked to leave, I will leave the chambers. Right now, we do have 2 blue cards. If you have not filled out a blue card and would like to speak, make sure to do so. The first one we have is Zachary Wynn.
Good evening. On the Asteri, I hope you guys are going after the tax abatement. I know that's in the works, can't talk about it, lawyers and stuff. It would be interesting to get an actual estimate of how much in public resources has been expended, man hours, you know, ambulance, all that at the Asteri, just to kind of ballpark the real cost. And I'd like to again ask if any of you have been able to determine if there's an effort by the county to address methamphetamine abuse, apart from law enforcement. With the warmer weather and Code Blue ended, there are a great deal of people now living on the streets in the city, and many clearly in mental health distress. I am seeing a lot of people downtown with shopping carts, and the other day witnessed a man hauling 2 carts of junk take about 3 hours to go 2 blocks from around the Kava bar to the bench in front of McGraw House, clearly under the influence. You had a proclamation tonight for Older Americans Month. The elderly residents of McGraw who hang out outside to smoke cigarettes don't really need to deal with stuff like this. And it's becoming more and more common. Addressing situations like this will require acknowledging the methamphetamine crisis and committing to solve it. Does the county have a plan? There is at least one successful protocol called contingency management I will be able to share with you via email. The last meeting the legislature I attended was before the Seneca Street garage was judged to be beyond repair. Legislator Mezzi had expressed concerns about downtown business, concerns echoed by business owners and stakeholders at a recent Common Council meeting. I'm curious what Greg and the rest of the legislature think this means for downtown. Business is already suffering, and planning a new garage may stretch into mid-2028 before construction could even begin. There's also talk about replacing the garage with low-income housing or retail or a number of discussions that will drag out the planning process interminably. The city needs parking, especially for the hotel next door. It would be beneficial for the county to work with the city and other local elected officials like Leah Webb, Anna Kellis, Josh Riley, all the way up to the governor to accelerate the reconstruction of a new garage. Business owners need to be told that relief is coming in a year or 18 months, not 5 years. And the beauty of the situation is that everyone responsible are all Democrats, from the city of Ithaca all the way up to the governor's mansion. Please leverage this monopoly on government to deliver a rapid, cooperative solution to this infrastructure failure. The mayor is here tonight. It would be a great opportunity to make a commitment to get a new garage up fast. And think of how bad it would be if you had to wait until the Rubio administration to park on Seneca Street again. That's scary. So do something. Thanks, guys.
Damn Democrats. Next, Tom Wright.
I've spoken before about local money. The same way we have an insurance policy that we hope we never have to use, I hope that my suggestions won't ever be necessary. But on the federal level, we see a certain amount of chaos. We see a certain amount of chaos internationally, and we don't see climate change causing too much intercontinental chaos yet, but these things might happen. We don't have to run out of money. Each time a dollar goes from one person to another, it gives a chance for people to exchange value with each other. But when our dollars leave our nation and our county, and with the increasing debt treasury bond debts that may have to come due. We are putting ourselves in a more and more risky situation with our monetary policy. So as I've stated before, new legislative members, this may not be familiar to you, but I've been here before saying that the rebates that are offered to volunteer fire department members and EMT volunteers, if they were issued in the form of several checks of different denominations that would add up to the rebate, they would be payable to the county for any debt, fine, fee, or tax, and that would give some official backing to allow for the existence of a local currency. I think the possibility of a local currency might be an important insurancy policy for local counties or maybe even school districts to have in the event of increasing chaos from the federal or international level. If nothing else, if it was instituted and we never needed it, it might help people be acquainted with their neighbors who have some sort of minor service or product that they could exchange. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, Amanda Kirch-Guster.
Good evening. Somebody from Flock was sharing how the cameras haven't come down, and I reassured them that the police don't have access to them. There's been no investigation further into the issue I shared. I did follow up just so everybody's up to date there. Tonight I want to briefly speak about local agricultural development, supply chain resilience, and infrastructure vulnerability. We're becoming increasingly dependent on long and fragile systems for food, housing, electricity, and transportation. So I think we should begin asking larger questions. How much food consumed in Tompkins County is actually grown here? And of the food grown locally, how much of our production still depends heavily on oil, gas, imported fertilizers, long-haul transportation, and centralized industrial systems? I think that's like everything we buy at Wegmans, right, folks? Could this region realistically feed 100,000 people locally if major supply chains become unstable? And alongside that, do we currently have spaces capable of safely housing and warming large portions of the population during a prolonged electrical grid disruption? We can't even maintain an emergency shelter year-round. Because as we electrify our heating systems and increase dependency on the grid, we also increase our vulnerability to weather events, infrastructure failures, fuel shortages, and cyber attacks. A prolonged winter outage could become potentially genuinely devastating. And I'd rather ask and sound like Chicken Little and be wrong. I'd rather sound like Chicken Little and be wrong for asking whether the sky is falling than to remain silent if the sky actually begins to fall. Resilience planning needs to include local food production, distributed energy systems. We need people with fireplaces. We need to know where those places are. We need emergency heating infrastructure. We need greenhouse production. We need storage capacity and community scale resilience hubs. Not out of fear, but out of practicality. And like Tom was saying, those are local dollars. Everybody working in local ag, those are people spending money locally. Regions capable of feeding themselves and maintaining basic local stability will likely fare far better during disruption than regions entirely dependent on distant systems remaining uninterrupted. We're talking New York City, Philadelphia, Rochester, Syracuse, Buffalo. Tompkins County already has farmland, knowledge, research institutions, and strong local networks. We're also one of the most resource-rich in the state. We need to lead from the front. We actually really need to put forward a plan to show how we're going to feed 100,000 people, just if in case we might need to do so. Because I'd rather have a problem solved than to have a problem and have no options. The opportunity now is in organizing our local assets more intentionally and treating local resilience as long-term strategic infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Kayla's here from the city of Ithaca. Welcome, Kayla.
Good evening, everyone. So just a quick city update. This past month has been pretty easy on our end. We did, in the first week of May, approve officially to expand our PUD citywide. So yay, that's very exciting. We also approved for our mayor to go ahead and submit to the Assembly and the Senate our request for red light cameras as well as speed cameras in our school zones. So that process is going along. And then on the 12th, so last Tuesday, we had our official budget kickoff meeting. I recommend folks going and watching that. That should be up on our city webpage now. One of the things I want to highlight from that is that our acting city manager, Dominic, stated that we should be seeing about $40 million in new property value in 2027. So that's really exciting, and of course, just does a good job setting the scene, just of the city and what's going on in it. And additionally, last Wednesday, we also received a presentation from DPW on the road work that will be happening this summer. They briefly showed the map, so I also recommend community to go ahead and watch that YouTube clip, so they have an idea of what roads will be being worked on in this summer. And then we also went ahead and approved the HUD, or are going to move to approve the HUD entitlement action plan in our June's meeting. And then tomorrow is our final meeting for the month. And during that meeting, we will be discussing some staff restructuring of our fire department. So I encourage folks to watch that. And we will also be receiving a flood mitigation update on our letter of map revision from our planning department and the consulting firm that we are working with. And if there's any questions, Travis?
So I have two questions and a compliment.
Yeah.
What did you say about the PUD process?
The PUD process?
Yeah.
We approved for PUDs to be citywide now.
Okay.
So previously, they were restrictive into certain areas of the city, largely in Ward 1, I believe. And now it's citywide, so any neighborhood can, or any developer, or any person who's interested can apply for one.
Awesome.
Yep.
Second one, I know that Route 13 near all the box stores, this is not a city road, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, correct.
If you have any damage to your car from potholes, who do you contact? Is it the state?
I'm going to refer to Mayor Contamo for this answer.
I know the answer.
Oh.
1-800-POTHOLE. New York State answers, it's a recording.
Okay.
And it is the Department of Transportation. But we should see a lot less of that over the next 18 months, because one of the other things was that the city was pledged $27 million by the governor to rebuild all the state roads that run through Ithaca.
Yes.
Oh, nice. I got 2 flats on Sunday from the same pothole. Last thing, this is a compliment. The DPW is repaving my street, and the crew is doing an amazing job. Friday, I needed to get out of my driveway, and they built me a nice little ramp when they were done at the end of the day so I could get out for the weekend. I thought it was really cool because right next to it, they had dug this 8-foot ditch and all this other stuff. So it was kind of a pain in their butt, but they were really cool in doing that for me. So I just wanted to publicly thank them and say that they're doing a great job, at least in my neighborhood. So if you want to pass that along to DPW, that would be great.
Yes, I will for sure do that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Also, congratulations to the City of Ithaca for being awarded the DRI, the Downtown Revitalization Initiative funds, $10 million. That is a massive award. We've never seen it here in Ithaca. We see every single community around us getting it, so that is congratulations from all of us.
Thank you.
Great. Greg Mezzi?
Yes, congratulations on that. That's exciting, and you know, there's opportunity for real transformation. I have a couple of questions as we're talking about road work. Do you know if Stewart Ave between Buffalo and University, which I think is maybe the worst road in the city of Ithaca, is on the work plan? That's my personal opinion.
I was going to say, I don't believe it's on the work plan, but I do believe that there's conversations around Stewart. Okay, I'm going to refer to the mayor as well.
Okay.
Putting her on the spot. She knows the answer to this, but as part of the city's newest memorandum of understanding with Cornell University, we have set aside several years worth of drawdown from those infrastructure funds to begin work on the Stewart Avenue rebuild within the area that you have identified. We've gotten that initial pot of money. We are also pursuing outside awards to help with that construction. The entire rebuild of Stewart Avenue is in the offing. It will of course be a multi-year project so that we phase it, because in addition to being very poorly maintained, it is also one of the more heavily trafficked routes in the city. And we want to make sure that we're not shutting that traffic down to college town businesses and to the students that utilize it, but work is anticipated to begin within the next 18 months.
That's great, and I appreciate that. As I've come to learn, all things in government sometimes move at a pace that's slower than we would like. So I appreciate that there's a focus on there, but if that could speed along, that would be great. Because it's a really bad road. And I appreciate, Mayor, your comments about access to businesses, which leads me to my next question, which is a follow-up from Zach Wynn's comment about the downtown garage and just the sense. I was not able to watch the Common Council meeting that was referenced in the public comments, but is there a conversation at the Common Council level about access to that end of the Commons and how the closure of that garage really becomes an impediment to access and economy in downtown Ithaca?
Yeah, I will say that our city administration as well as Common Council recognizes the importance of the Seneca Street garage, and we are actively working to figure out next steps and figuring out how to accommodate the community within that area. And we are taking all concerns that we are hearing seriously. And I believe that the city manager is doing a great job working with the respective stakeholders, city staff, to figure out next steps.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you for the thoughtful response.
Yes. John Hunt. Oh, okay. Anyone else? Judith Hubbard.
Thanks, Kayla. I was interested, excuse me, to hear that you're looking at $40 million of increased property value.
Yes.
In 2027. Do you have a sense of what, does that mean that there's new properties coming online? Because assessments are not quite frozen. They're increasing by, a fixed amount sort of next year just to cover inflation, basically. Are there new properties that are taxable that are entering the tax rolls?
Yeah, it's a combination of some of the tax, obviously as years go on, tax abatements, we're receiving new revenues in that, new properties coming down the tax rolls as construction is finishing up. So yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the city of Ithaca? Okay, thank you, Kayla.
Thank you.
We appreciate you coming today. Okay, why don't we go ahead and move up the chair's report, and I just have a few appointments, and then we'll get started on the Asteri update. Let's see here. I have chair's appointment, Workforce Development Board, Cindy Walter, mandated partner, Adult Educations and Literacy Representative, term expires June 30th, 2029. Christopher Apgar, Business Representative, term expires June 30th, 2029. And then I have, actually, it's just those two. And I did have just a few quick announcements. I did want to thank the city. We have been having monthly meetings with them, and they've been extremely productive. It's been really the first time that the county and the city have actually sat down and talked about the issues that we both have. Today we talked about homelessness, housing, Asteri, parking, the parking garage, TCAT, and it's really helpful to get on the same page and really build relationships. So thank you, Mayor, and Dominic has been in charge of those organizing, and Kayla joined us today. And I really hope we continue to foster that relationship because it's very, very important. So Rob, Mayor Cantamo, if you could join us at the table with, let's see here, Jenny and Skip, that would be great. We'll start moving into our Asteri updates. And I just want to thank our community partners who have been absolutely incredible. I want to thank the city and, of course, our county colleagues. Because if you all will remember on that one afternoon, I believe it was March 6th, we all received the news about the vacate order, and it was really incredible for me to see, as somewhat of an outsider here in the county, for our county colleagues to come together within 30 minutes of receiving the news, and we were all on a Zoom call trying to figure out what's going on and where to house people. And of course, the partnership has only grown over the past few months working with the city of Ithaca, and it's had to. It's kind of been a natural formation, but we've realized that in order to take care of our community, we had to come together and work together. And so I think what I've been hearing from our community and our constituents, the ones that don't live in Asteria, is what are the city and what are the county doing about this location? We know that we have people that are currently housed there. What are the conditions like? Are they improving? Deborah is chair of the IDA, so she might be able to give us a little bit of an IDA update as well. But Mayor, if we could start with the city, that would be great.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Chair Black, for the invitation, and to my legislature colleagues, thank you for your time and attention today. I hope that folks also recognize that in addition to being something I say when I'm out in public, I am in fact quite the working dad, so I apologize if any Pokemon questions come out of the chair's office over the next half hour. I want to echo the chair's sentiment about the not entirely unturbulent process in responding to the crisis at Asteria, but I think overall we worked really well together. I want to pay special thanks, in addition to the chair, to the county administrator, county attorney, and some of your other colleagues who have been intimately involved in these conversations with us. We continue, as I'm sure you're all aware, to have regular conversations with both the Vicino group in sort of group meetings, as well as with Homes and Community Renewal, top leadership at the state around addressing this issue. One of the things I'd like to speak with you all about today was on one of those calls, it became evident early on to the chair and I that some of the planned remediations that were being put forward by the Vicino group at the Asteria building were insufficient. Namely, or at least most proximately, was the door that was put on across from Cinemapolis. If any of you have enjoyed a movie and or some Old Bay popcorn, you will have noticed that that door does not latch, despite us being assured that it would. And as a consequence of that, we inquired with Vicino management, and they invited me to do a walkthrough of the building, which I did. I really wish that I could be here before all of you tonight telling you that I think conditions had materially improved. I do not think that is the case. When I arrived at the building, I was met by security and I was brought up in an elevator that had no working lights. Security staff turned on cell phone lights so that we were not in a dark box as we moved up to the management floor. I want to remind us all that this is a building that has at least 40 units of individuals who require supportive services. And the idea of not only this being a fire code violation, but the fact that this facility has these, I think, additionally, call them stressful conditions, was very disappointing. I was told, I'm not always the best at sarcasm, so I'm gonna have to take it at face value, but I was told that the short-term solution was going to be tying GoPros with lights to the ceiling of the elevator so that people would be able to see. I personally would have shut that particular elevator bank down and used the other one that was still in operation, but I am not a building manager. I also toured the facility. I saw a number of damaged units, including one unit that had been completely ripped down to the studs after an e-bike was exploded inside of the unit. I saw a number of units that had front doors kicked in, pretty significant damage, pretty significant waste material in the common spaces. The stairwell, I'm going to censor myself, reeked of urine, despite assurances that daily cleaning occurred. And in response to my inquiry about that daily cleaning, I was told, yeah, well, we can't clean everything. I also inquired about the proposed solution regarding the installation of new camera systems to help with the security of the facility. These are models very similar to what you see at Wegmans or at a casino, the sort of like eye in the sky style. And I asked what I thought was a reasonable question. How are we going to ensure that this new security technology, once installed, remains operational, right? We all know that those little domes, there's not a whole lot protecting them. And I was told that it was not anticipated that there would be any tampering with the security cameras. It's been a while since I taught Bayesian probability updating at Cornell, but when you experience something like someone smashing every window in a stairwell, you might want to update your prior beliefs about what kind of vandalism might occur in your building. Overall, I'm very disappointed. Despite being assured by the leadership, this was 2 Vecino vice presidents that were present at this walkthrough, being assured that they were in close communication with our building division at the city, I did what I think any of you would do and walked immediately to the building director's office following that walkthrough and was informed that they have in fact not been responsive to any inquiries and follow-up inspections from city staff. I know that you all have the jurisdiction on health issues, and I know the commissioner is sitting right here, so I'm sure she has plenty of things to share as well. But I have to say, we are deeply disappointed at the city. We plan to be as strict as we can to the letter of the law in enforcing all code violations. Thankfully, we are no longer at a time of year where there is inclement weather in the code blue environment, but at the same time, God forbid something does happen to that building with respect to fire code. You know, you all had a tremendous facility, and again, enormous gratitude to DSS and your staff that helped triage folks out of the building when it had to shut down. But I have no optimism that the property management is on the right trajectory for addressing these issues. I really am increasingly of the mind that the only way to address long-term property management solutions at that facility is to, through partnership together and with the state, lean on the investor group that holds the 99.5% stake in that property and really demand either significant improvement or ideally an alternative option, because I think we would all agree we owe it to our community, and especially those members of our community that live in that building, to have at least a baseline standard of quality of life that is not being delivered at this time. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I also just want to remind my colleagues, and we'll have some of our staff talk about the conditions as well, is that we're walking kind of a fine line, because Skip and Jenny are able to talk about the information that is out in the public, but there is some information that they're working on and information that we won't be able to talk about. And so I want to make sure that they feel comfortable stating that we can't talk about that unless we go into executive session. And Maury's here also so that we stay above board, because we don't want to essentially do anything that that would ruin any of our future cases if it ends up going that route. So just want to remind everyone. Are there any questions for Mayor Quintalmo? Okay. Let's see here. Jenny and Skip, did you want to?
Yeah, thank you. It's nice to see everybody again. So as you all may be aware, the health department has some interesting, and Whole Health has some interesting abilities here, looking at our sanitary code and the way that we inspect buildings, and have been working really closely with Asteri for the last 1.5 to 2 years, I would say, to really help bring them into compliance, especially in terms of solid waste management and the way that they're dealing with biohazards. Those are kind of the pieces that really fall in the public health sanitary code that we have been looking at and working with them on. I know that there were several questions in this session a couple of weeks ago around how our inspections work and how penalties are raised and things of that nature. And sort of to start off, I want to illustrate Shauna's point. We really work closely with the Board of Health when we levy penalties and fines. And so those meetings are public. And so the information that we submit to the board becomes public. We have a board meeting in a couple of weeks. So if you are interested in a little bit more of some of the updates and things of that nature, you know, it's our responsibility to bring it to the board first, and then sort of we can bring it back to here. But I did want to kind of just let everyone know where we've been at and what we've been working on. So Skip's team, as you all know, we moved forward with about a $40,000 penalty after they violated commissioner's orders. We gave them until the end of April to go in and address the issues that were laid out in those commissioner's orders. Predominantly, this again was around following a solid waste management plan, but it also included things like having 24/7 security, doing sort of a guest registry for folks coming in and out, working to address the bike situation, and then other things like trash rooms, trash chutes, et cetera. We gave them until the end of April, and then Skip's team started going in May and has been inspecting and re-inspecting pretty frequently in the last several weeks, sort of documenting those findings, and those are the things that we'll be bringing to the Board of Health in May, the month we are in. And, you know, I think if there's other questions around how we levy penalties and things of that nature, we're happy to kind of field those. You know, I think one thing I wanted to lift up that has been really positive is that Skip's team has really observed a fantastic relationship between the security team on site and residents. That it seems like particularly the security team is working really closely with residents. They have a good collaborative relationship. They're working closely with the current property manager to address different situations. And it does seem like the security team is bringing a sense of community. It's sort of been our experience and observation. So I think we wanted to kind of highlight that as well. Anything else you want to add?
Outside of that, so to date, we have completed 5 inspections. We began our inspections on May 1st, and we've been following the orders that the board has put in place. They've met some, they've missed some as well. So we will be getting together internally with Maury's office and Jenny, and then we will be making recommendations to the Board of Health on how to proceed moving forward. I suspect that's not going to make the May meeting, but probably June. We will provide an update to the Board of Health this month.
Great, thank you both. Are there any questions from legislators? Judith?
Thanks very much. I appreciate the work you're doing. I don't have any, you know, the knowledge I have about how your system works comes mostly from news articles, and so I feel like that's what my constituents also understand. So I'd just like to clarify that what I've seen in news articles is correct. It said, you know, that there was this $40,000 fine that I believe has not yet been paid, but maybe it has been. There was an additional $9,000 that was not fined unless if they met the target, which I believe they did not, it sounds like. And then it says that there's an additional fee per violation if they didn't meet these targets of $2,000 per violation per day. Now, since there were 83 violations originally, you know, that works out to these wildly huge numbers of something like $160,000 a day. And I'm just wondering, is that actually correct? Is this information correct? And are we likely to land anywhere near that? Like, do you have to follow that? Is there some middle ground? I'd really like to understand.
Yeah, absolutely. So the initial pieces that you laid out, that we did initially levy a $40,000 fine, is correct. We deferred a $9,000 penalty sort of to give them the opportunity to continue to work on things. And then, yeah, we do have the discretion, the ability to go forward with a $2,000 per violation per day. I want to really be clear, though, we do not set out to be, we do not set out to enforce in that manner typically, right? Like the ethos of our environmental health team is educate, support, and work to correct, right? So I think when it is appropriate, as we've demonstrated, going after the $40,000, we are happy and willing to do so. When the board approves it, it is always authorized by the board. But I do think we do try to use some degree of nuance if we feel like partners are working in good faith. So that's kind of where we'll be at for the next few months, is sort of assessing where we're at, where things are going, how partners are working, good faith or not, and then what is appropriate. And then we bring that to the board, and then they sort of are the final say. Maury, you want to?
No, I was going to say that's about as far into litigation strategy as we should go.
Great.
Thanks, it's very helpful to know. I think it's maybe been clear from Mayor Cantalmo's comments that people are not necessarily working in good faith, and I would hope that the fines get used to actually generate results, right? That if the results are not actually coming out, then maybe we aren't levying enough fines.
Randy?
Yeah, thank you for coming and talking about this. If you ever doubt that you have the support of the legislature to be as aggressive as you legally can be, then you've got it. Okay. I think that I went to the first department there in January of 25, and we'd heard many issues about things going on there, and I was shocked, probably as much as you were, that people were living like that, and they'd only been there 6 months. And the second time I went in there was July, so about a year ago, less than a year ago, and the same place, and it was slightly better. I don't know why, but it was at least that particular apartment. But it was a mess, and we've known it's a mess. Everybody's known this has been a mess for a long time, and government worked really too slow on this, and it was inevitable, which is what was going to happen. So, and I'm not sure it was ever a good idea to do this, what they did there, in putting people from the jungle right into apartments and impact the convention center like it did. The flooding and all those issues that happened, that may never bounce back. So I personally, any legal remedies we have, that if we have to take over control of that property, and if we can bill them for that process, I'm not sure you're going to see the results that you need a year from now, unless you have really serious case management with the people that are in there. I mean, almost to a point of you're inspecting their apartment routinely to help people through that process. Because if you don't, many of those people just aren't going to make it. It's going to continue to happen. It's really great security there. It's not good for other people. I really hope that we're as aggressive as we legally can be with this, and that if we have to, I'm not sure how case management's working there, but maybe that's where the county comes in. We need to have much more stringent and consistent case management for the people living there if they need it. So that's my thoughts.
Thank you. Rob?
Just to reply to Mr. Brown, we, like it sounds like the legislature, also at the city believe in leveraging our enforcement powers to the maximal extent. Of course, we are perhaps, I believe with my layperson's understanding that our sort of police powers relative to building code are slightly less than obtained to the health department. However, our fire code are much greater. And one of the challenges we run into is that we need both the consent of the property management and the unit in question when it's a per unit issue to be able to go in and conduct those building inspections, which has been challenging, not least of which, of course, as I'm sure you all know, that the property management firm is only aware of, I believe, 3 active leases in the 181 units that exist. No one else has an active lease in the building, in case that is news to you. To the point about the need for supportive services, I couldn't agree more, and I would just say that your chair has been very diligent. I'm not going to go further than I'm allowed to, but has been very diligent in raising the need for further state support. We are currently limited to the 40 ESHI units that exist, and it is a whether we like it or not, a state decision as to whether or not they increase the funding there. But I can assure you that that advocacy is occurring. The only other thing I would note, and I would of course defer to the county attorney or my attorney if he were here, given who holds the mortgage note and the ownership structure of the building, the only way I believe that either the county or the city could take possession of the building would be through eminent domain. I do not have $180 million to do that. I know that you don't. That does not mean that we should not exhaust all options available, but I just want to be clear-eyed about what level of direct control we can take over the situation. We are very limited by New York State law as to what we are allowed to do directly versus what we have to do leveraging our partners.
Thank you, Rob. I have received that question probably a dozen times, and I think it's important for our community to realize it's not just a matter of the county or the city stepping in, putting DSS in there, putting city people in there, and running a great building. Like, if that was a reality, we probably would have done it on March 7th, but it's not. And so, let's see here. I have Irene and Iris.
Yeah, Jenny, and thanks to you guys for the ongoing work, really, that all of you are doing, and for coming here to talk to us tonight, because it's been on all of our minds for a while. So you said, I think you said that you've been there 5 times since May 1st, your team? Correct. Is that, would you like to be able to be there more and you don't have enough staff and people power to do that?
I don't think it's an issue of, I mean, we're entering into our busy season right now. You know, we have children's camps, campgrounds, swimming pools, bathing beaches, and I guess just so you're aware, we normally don't regulate apartment buildings. So what got us there was the extent of the garbage inside the building, and then it escalated to the point where it became a public health nuisance. So yeah, where we started to where we are now, we've been seeing stuff that we would call violations, but certainly not to the extent of where we started. So we have been going back and following up to make sure things are getting corrected, and you know, that our inspections are focused on the garbage and biohazards. We're not getting into building code such as lights. Sure. We haven't even, yeah. I'm not sure that we've been in the elevators, because we go up the stairwells, we go through each floor, and we do not go into individual apartments. So to go out there every day would be a lot. It's at least 3 hours for our staff, and we usually send out 2 people at a time to do an inspection to go through the entire building. To do that on a daily basis would be significant for our staff. Yeah, understood. And so I guess my question is, if we were able to provide more staff, is that something you would want? You know, to be able to inspect more frequently?
I think we'd need to think about it and kind of get back to you. I mean, I certainly think there is certainly, the thing with environmental health, and I've said this before, is like, when it's working well, you don't see it and you don't know it. So there's always room for more staff for environmental health to inspect water, they do a lot of other housing work. But I think, you know, the frequency that they've been going in might feel appropriate for this moment. And so not that I ever want to turn down the offer for more staff or resources, but I think we'd want to really think about it and then kind of get back to you. But we appreciate your support in asking the question.
Yeah, sure. And Mayor, I just want to make sure I understand. The fire inspector is not able to go in unless there's permission from the company?
Thank you, Legislator Weiser. Thank you for the opportunity to correct that. Just to clarify, the fire marshal is able to conduct fire code inspections with much broader autonomy than the building code inspectors.
Okay.
And so the fire code inspector is the one, Assistant Chief Shepard was the one who was on site March 6th, who said, we have to shut this building down. building code, when they're inspecting, so like, the elevator, the pressurized windows in the stairwell, those are all fire code related issues. Things that are relevant to, and honestly, probably Legislator Mezzi knows better than I do what certain building code concerns are, but those are more about habitability and general building security that don't rise to the level of emergency. And so the relative authority that we have to do that at our own discretion is a little bit more curtailed.
Okay. And so have there been more inspections by the fire marshal?
Yes, they typically coincide with the alarm outside of my window going off every day or so, yeah.
Okay. And so to the extent that you're able to talk about it, are the standards being met that we're not expecting another emergency anytime soon of shutdown of the building?
Give me a moment to formulate a way to answer that.
I think we're putting the mayor in a precarious situation, and I don't want to do that. We didn't invite him to do that.
Thank you. What I can comment on, thank you, Chair, is as folks are aware from simple observation of the building, the permanent windows have not yet been fully installed, have not been installed.
Iris?
Yeah, thank you for this timely update. I know that we've all had a lot of these questions, so it's helpful to hear from both perspectives. I was going to ask a similar question around had we been back to do fire inspections, so thank you for covering that, Irene. I was curious, I know we had a public commenter ask this, but I think it's something we've all considered. Has the city attempted to quantify some of the cost of, for example, the emergency response that kind of had to come to this building over a certain period of time? Not asking you to do it, but I'm curious if that has been done or approximated.
That is a question that I would be happy to answer at this time, not in open session.
Totally.
But we are aware of significant costs associated with public service provision to the facility.
Okay, thank you. And then I was curious just from the environmental health perspective, just maybe more for sort of the public to understand, what are, like, in real terms for the people who live there, what are like the kinds of concerns that you are having? I mean, yes, we see garbage, but what does that look like for a concern for a family that's living in this building? Like, what are sort of the major buckets of concerns?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's about diseases that might be in fecal matter, an increase in, an increase in bug and then vector-borne diseases, things of that nature, biohazards, the risk of stepping on a used syringe, kind of things of that nature, but also very much sort of the mental health component of what it feels like and looks like to live in a dignified space that is clean. Anything else you want to add to that one?
I'll add, Iris, too, that I've had conversations with other organizations that are part of that building, and unfortunately, some of the trash issues, some of the other issues that are happening, like the toilets overflowing, the plumbing breaking, are affecting the business of other organizations that are part of that collective. And, whenever we think about, let's just say the conference center, the city put in a large chunk of money, and we continue to put in a large chunk of 4% of our hotel tax goes towards a conference center. And so it's an investment for all of us that unfortunately is really not being taken care of because of the tenants upstairs. And I'm not just talking about the physical tenants, but the management upstairs that's not taking care of business.
Thank you.
Greg Mezzi.
First, I see a Pokemon question coming. Why? So we'll give you a reprieve. One, I want to echo the thanks. I think that this is a very difficult situation to balance. And I know that it put a number of our county staff sort of right in the middle of it, sort of unexpectedly one day. And the cooperation and coordination with the city, the efforts of our chair, the efforts of the mayor, and everybody involved, I think is to be commended, because this, and our county administrator, I apologize, of course, I see over there. I know, but everybody involved. This is people's life. This is people's livelihood. This is all of the things sort of wrapped up into one big, messy, ugly bow. So I'm glad it's you all that are in it, reporting to us, because I think we have the right people in place to come up with whatever outcome, probably imperfect, but at some point I think we'll continue to see forward motion and progress. My question comes a little bit on the public health side, because that's where we sit, and the idea of individual responsibility versus landlord responsibility. And again, I think the actions of the management group leave much to be desired without getting into specifics. But also, what type of personal responsibility do individuals have for not creating public health hazards to the community, right? Defecating in public, putting other bodily fluids, in places, or, where does the line get drawn between the management of that and then the individual who's doing that? And I realize that there are very nuanced and different instances, right? Because trash piling up in a trash room is a management issue. Somebody using the restroom in the stairwell seems to me like an individual issue that then becomes a management issue. But what level of accountability do we have to individuals who are creating these public health hazards as well?
This is a very hard question, Greg. I mean, I think that there is still also an additional management responsibility around creating a space where people feel, I don't want to throw back to the broken windows theory of policing, sure, but it feels a bit like the broken windows theory of policing, where if you create a building that is nice and clean and sustains that way, someone is going to also be less likely to poop on the floor. So I think we are in a bit of a chicken and an egg situation here. I mean, yes, certainly people do have some degree of individual responsibility, but I think the other question there is, what sort of supports do those folks need to feel like they know or can access the right recesses of their brain to assess the situation and realize that that isn't necessarily the right choice to be making? And are the folks who are necessarily leaving a lot of that trash, are they actually even the tenants of that building? Or is it, again, back to property managers, the property management who has not been able to secure the building, and so there are lots of folks coming in and out who might not be necessarily residents?
So I completely agree with your comments. I guess my question back to you is, looking at whole health,
sure,
what responsibility as a county do we have to make sure that those services are available to those individuals?
Yeah, I mean, I think we do have a responsibility to do that. And, something that we have been talking about, and I understand this was a bit before my time, but there used to be a team, for example, on the mental health team that focused on hoarding. And so they would work with individuals who had, and hoarding is not something that can be easily or quickly addressed. It is not as simple as walk in and throw out somebody's belongings. Like, there is a lot of complexity involved. And so I think it is sort of thinking through and understanding what other supports we have and the staff with the right subject matter expertise to support individuals who might be in these unique situations. And I think also, Skip's team, they do a lot of housing work and things like that, like hoarding and things of that nature, that extends beyond Asteri and would be a resource countywide. So I think we are trying to assess what are the other supports that we need to be putting in place, and always how do we connect people into care. I think the thing I hear the most from my team is that there is sort of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and that you can't necessarily bring people into mental health treatment, and Christy can agree with me here, hopefully, who also aren't in a place where they can then receive that treatment. So I think we are also in a position where we sort of need to solve for some of these other, situational life pieces before we can necessarily really meaningfully engage and provide someone the mental health treatment that they might need in order to then move through the world in a more community-oriented way.
Thank you. That's a great perspective. Appreciate it.
I have Travis and then Maury.
Thank you, Jenny, especially for that last part. Tompkins County, between the services that we have on the county level, our service providers, all the different partners and agencies, I think we can all agree that this county is extremely program rich. But people have to choose to want to take advantage of the programs. One of the hardest things, for example, in our LEAD program is bringing people in and then pretty much refusing any sort of help or assistance they want to, or they're not ready to, or whatever is happening for them in that moment to make any changes. And so they're going to exist the way that they choose until they make different choices. Part of the issue with Asteri is that there were dozens and dozens of apartments where they weren't even on a lease. People were in these places, they weren't on a lease. And so that's a management issue. Those folks weren't regular residents, and there is a certain number of vacancies that they're allowed to have with some of the funding. And so there were times where they would just bring people in, give them leases without doing any sort of verification, checking, background check, anything. And so you get what you get. In order to keep this funding, these are some of the things that they would do. So it is a tough situation because there are folks that definitely need the support, but there's folks that aren't ready for the support. We have folks that go to Code Blue. As soon as it's warm, they're ready to go camp. They just want to be left alone. They don't want anybody to bother them. They just want to go live. And then we also have people who enterprise off of folks that live in these type of buildings. Y'all heard of, maybe not remember, the big drug bust that happened a month or two ago at Art House. People literally will move into somebody's apartment and kind of hold them hostage because they have what that person needs to be able to maintain their lifestyle. The old DSS used to be a building like Asteri. Not the old DSS. Where DSS is now used to be a building like Asteri. We called it the Taj Mahal because it was full of one-bedrooms and efficiencies. And people who were into a certain life would go in there on a Friday, or when the first or the middle of the month came out, when people would get their benefits, they would go in there and not come out until Monday with pockets and pockets full of cash because you can't be seen inside that building by the outside. So it's a really tough situation. Hopefully, if we can get all this figured out and get people back in there, we could do it much differently. But I think a lot of that is on ownership. You know, if you're going to put whoever you can put in there just to fill up spots, you're going to get what you get. And that's part of the problem.
Thank you. Maury?
Yeah, I'm going to compliment with an E, also an I, but compliment what Travis just said, which is, and without having a sliver of the expertise that Whole Health brings to the table. But when an individual moves into an apartment complex, the expectations of what is expected of them are communicated to them. They get a lease. They need to understand what the terms and conditions of the lease are. They get complex rules and regulations. They're expected to know what those are. So when when Mayor Cantelmo talked about 3 out of 180 units having leases, I mean, that whole process of documentation and education really needs to happen, and that's what complements what Travis said. There's a real need, in addition to the services, for tenant education in collaboration with what Whole Health does, what DSS does, and what case management does.
Anyone else this evening? Mayor?
Just before I depart, I just again wanted to thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to speak with you all. I think this is the first time I've done it in public session recently. I will leave you with some orthogonal information, but also some positive information. Again, thank you for the congratulations around the DRI. We're very excited. In the spirit of the chair's citation of the increased relationship between the county and the city, I'd like to let you know I cannot say who at this time because of state regulations, but there will be a member of this legislature who may or may not be aware of it, who is being appointed to the local planning committee, which will oversee the project development. We want to make sure that the county's voice is at that table. There'll be more information about that to come when I'm allowed to share that. And then the other thing, which I know we've collaborated with you all around the GIVE grant, and I received a phone call from the governor's office yesterday, and I was informed that Ithaca is one of the GIVE recipients that has experienced 0 gun violence in 2026. And so they were just commending us on that and highlighting the success of the program overall. But we just want to thank you for your partnership on that, because there has been a precipitous decline in gun violence over the last couple of years as a direct consequence of our partnership and this grant program. And I just thought you all might want to have a little bit of good news before I leave. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Jenny and Skip, for making the time tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, next, let's do legislator privilege of the floor. Christy?
Thank you. I'm going to do a very short speech, but a meaningful one, I hope. Before we observe Memorial Day, I want to honor my grandfather. His name was Louis Bianconi. He served in the 2nd Battalion of the Marine Raiders during World War II in an elite force. That was the Marine Raiders, look them up, in the South Pacific. He was awarded the Purple Heart after taking significant machine gun fire in combat and returning home. But his service began long before he put on a uniform. He lost his father when he was 6 years old, and at 15 he lost his mother and became the one holding his family together, helping raise his younger brother alongside grandparents who did not speak English. He had every reason to become bitter or to walk away from his community and his country, but instead he chose service. He built his home with his own hands from a Sears Roebuck kit, along with my grandmother, Rose, who would not be happy if I did not mention her. He raised his flag every single day in front of his house. He had a flagpole and he raised it. And he spent the rest of his life devoted to his family and his community. He was a lifelong Democrat, very proud to say, who believed deeply in public service. He taught me how to say the Pledge of Allegiance before I ever went to school. And every time I say it in this chamber, I think of him. I'm grateful to carry his example into this work. And as we observe Memorial Day, I carry gratitude not only for him, but for all of those who served and sacrificed. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you. Deborah Dawson?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I want to say this before the mayor leaves. Somebody hit my car in a parking lot in the city the other day, and I called the police because I know you need to have a police report to justify proving that you're not at fault. And I thought I was in for a long wait. Officer Jimenez was there within 7 minutes. He could not have been kinder, more understanding, or more efficient. And I just wanted you to know that.
Thank you. I did pass that on to the chief. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rob.
Bye, Rob.
Okay, but that's not my major comment. Since this is Older Americans Month, I came across a rather alarming statistic that I wanted to share with y'all. Adults 50 and older are currently the fastest growing demographic of homeless Americans, now comprising nearly half of the single adult unhoused. Demographers from the National Alliance to End Homelessness note that individuals 50 and older have surged from roughly 10% of the homeless population to nearly half. And homelessness is awful, no matter who it affects, but I think that what this reflects is the increasingly rapid erosion of our country's social safety net for retired Americans, and that concerns me deeply. So thanks for listening.
Thank you, Deb. Anyone else? Veronica Pillar?
I was hoping someone would take my first
2 of 3 items from me. But first, quickly, if you're watching and you haven't voted in your school district elections yet, please do. Polls close at 9. You can catch up on our recording later if you really don't want to miss us. Second, the next convening in the minimum wage study is happening 2 days from today, Thursday, May 21st. Thank you. From 6 p.m. to 7:30 or 8 at the Tompkins County Public Library. There will be food and there will be childcare. So this is open to anyone focused on workers' experiences. I encourage anyone who's got things to share to please come, and anyone who's not got things to share, especially my colleagues, if you can, to please drop in. I've found it in the other convenings I've attended really valuable to just listen to the discussion that comes up, both about minimum wages and other things, when you get just a bunch of people in a room together for a well-facilitated conversation that doesn't maybe happen as often as it could. Finally, in worse news, I wanted to talk a bit about the White House's new counterterrorism strategy that was released on May 6th, day after our last meeting. This is I've not read the previous counterterrorism strategies. I think they were longer and serious documents. This one is a 16-page document full of theatrical grandstanding. It ranks threats based on politics rather than intelligence assessments. This is quoting ProPublica, which interviewed a bunch of experts, and you can read more analysis from the counterterrorism experts on, for instance, ProPublica. You can read mocking of the typos, I'm sure, on social media. I wanted to share my alarm at seeing myself on the list of top threats. Not by name, don't worry. The document lists 3 major types of terror groups, and the third of which is, quote, violent left-wing extremists, including anarchists and anti-fascists. I don't consider myself violent or an extremist, but it's abundantly clear those labels can be applied to pretty much anyone whenever anyone thinks those are convenient. I do consider myself left-wing. I can't possibly, I think, consider myself an anarchist while spending a lot of my effort working in the government system. But I do consider myself an anti-fascist, and I think it's a plenty great and ideally should be common thing to be. If you look up definitions of fascism, you will find many with many $7 words. One I found somewhat more understandable just on the internet earlier is, fascism may be defined as a form of political behavior marked by obsessive preoccupation with community decline, humiliation, or victimhood, and by compensatory cults of unity, energy, and purity, in which a mass-based party of committed nationalist militants working in uneasy but effective collaboration with traditional elites abandons democratic liberties and pursues with redemptive violence and without ethical or legal restraints goals of internal cleansing and external expansion. So I think if you listen to this, when I read that, I recognize things that are going on in our country right now. I recognize things that were, of course, maybe more at their height in early, mid-20th century Europe. And I hope that the United States in this century does not reach the peak fascism of Mussolini and Hitler in the previous century. But this is the current federal administration just is fascist, or is trying to be. And they have said it kind of clearly themselves by saying one of our most serious opponents is anti-fascists. Anti-fascists are not your opponent unless you yourself are fascist. A little later in the document, they clarify that a target characteristic of some of these, quote, violent left-wing extremists is being radically pro-transgender. Oops, that's me again. I guess I'm radically pro-transgender because when someone says that their gender is this, that, or the other, I believe them, I affirm them, I hope I support others who do the same. I guess, you know, number for number, most of the time people's gender is what they were told it was when they were born, and I support that too, but apparently extending that to everyone who realizes it's different is radical. Anyway, this document is less of a strategy than it is hateful political rhetoric, but I think it's important to pay attention to and not dismiss, because it is hateful political rhetoric that is ensconced in the power of the state and the federal government, which, if it chooses, has all of the institutional and military might that it wants to do violence to anybody that it wants. I'm also the daughter of a career counterterrorism professional. This is not how counterterrorism is supposed to work. It's supposed to be, you know, thoughtful, apolitical, data-driven, things we like to see here as well. I do want to be abundantly clear that most of us radically pro-transgender anti-fascists, while apparently in the federal government's crosshairs, are not even close to the most vulnerable people in these crosshairs. We have community members, mostly immigrants, lots of folks who are brown-skinned and born elsewhere and maybe not fluent in English, literally getting grabbed off the street and thrown in inhumane detention cells, and then maybe being shipped off to places that are not their home by Immigrations and Customs Enforcement and other agencies. That, like, I do not want to pull focus from that violence that is going on right now. 3 people in the last couple months were similarly abducted from King Ferry, which is just like a 5-minute drive outside of Tompkins County. And it's really affected the community, and it's really bad. But I guess I want to put some attention on this document, because it does show that when, at least right now, if the federal government is calling something terrorism or says, we're working for your safety, we're working against threats to the United States, it's easy to hear this innocuous language as they're working to protect me and keep me safe. But it's just as likely as not that they are working to harm me, to harm you, to harm our constituents, and to not keep us safe at all. And so it's worth questioning that, and not alarming for alarm's sake, but alarming for changing how we read between the lines, I guess. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. I have Randy, Greg, and Irene.
I don't necessarily like to talk about political things, but I will talk about one national political thing, a good thing, I think. Senator Warren and Senator Scott are put a bill together, one's a Republican, one's a Democrat, to not allow lobbying after you're no longer in service. And I think it's about time that, because we have Democrats and Republicans that get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to lobby for different countries that may not be friends of ours. And so I hope that that goes through, and it's a bipartisan thing, and I hope that that happens. But yesterday we toured the Learning Web, the Youth Services Board, and I've been wanting to do that. It was really great. Met all the staff and the executive director, and they gave a presentation and talked about the number of youth, and for them youth is I think 24 to 18. And they were housing over 25 kids in that neighborhood, and a lot of them had kids themselves. So that was really fascinating to talk about that, but they still have a big void, is they have no housing for anybody under 18. So that's a big problem for them. But it was really impressive, and it was good to see the new building and meet all the people.
Great, thank you. Greg?
Thank you, Shona. Last Friday, the 8th, I had the opportunity to attend the Finger Lakes Land Trust ribbon cutting, representing the legislature. The Finger Lakes Land Trust, and I'm going to read excerpts from an article just so I can get the facts correct. Finger Lakes Land Trust completed its first universally accessible trail project, reopening part of the Roy H. Park Preserve in Dryden, which is in Legislator Wakeman's district, with a few new design features to improve access for visitors of all abilities. This was funded in part by a Tompkins County Tourism Capital Grant, New York State Conservation Partnership Program, some private donations and other things. It's a really pretty area of wetlands. It's a really now truly accessible trail for many people of varying abilities. And it was nice to get out on a Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock and walk around. And the Roy H. Park Preserve also serves as a key link in the proposed Emerald Necklace, a regional conservation vision connecting more than 50,000 acres of protected land surrounding Ithaca, stretching from the Finger Lakes National Forest to Hammond Hill State Forest. And the Finger Lakes Land Trust said 2026 marks the 20th anniversary of the Emerald Necklace Initiative. To commemorate this milestone, they're going to be hosting a self-guided hiking challenge throughout the year across conservation lands included in the project. I think the most impactful thing was a gentleman from that area spoke that during the decline of his late wife, who struggled with dementia or Alzheimer's, that he would have to drag the wheelchair through the trail and kind of around to get her to what was her sort of favorite spot in the preserve, and now these improvements make it so that other people don't have to endure that same challenge as they navigate those lands. And it was really touching to listen to him speak and to see the park bench that was dedicated at the end of the trail to his late wife. So there was just kind of a real personal moment, but highlights the struggle that many people with varying abilities have as they try to navigate our natural areas. And as we also talk about Older Americans Month, I think this is something that makes our natural areas accessible to both residents and visitors alike. So just wanted to highlight that and appreciate Shauna for asking me to step in for that moment, because it was a good event. And again, congratulations to the Land Trust on continuing to do great work across the county.
Great. Thanks, Greg. Thanks for doing that as well. Irene?
Yeah, thanks, Veronica, for your comments. It reminded me of yesterday. I saw a movie at Cinemapolis that was a really important movie. It's called "Steal This Story, Please," and it's the story of the work of Amy Goodman at Democracy Now! But it ends with a real gut punch. On the heels of the Tonight Show closing, on the heels of, so many losses that we've experienced in our sense of democracy right now, the gut punch about how very, very important media is, independent media is. And one of the really nice things at the very end of the movie, in the list of, thanking people who helped to fund the movie, was our own Park Foundation. And so I want to really give props to them. I know that they've supported ProPublica, they've supported any number of independent media efforts over the years, and we're really lucky to have them and their advocacy here in this community. So I want to recommend the movie. Also, just if you haven't seen it or read the interview in the Ithaca Voice, I think last month we had a proclamation about local media or something about declaring a media month. Anyhow, people may or may not know Jeff Stein, who actually started the Ithaca Voice some years ago, just won a Pulitzer Prize. He had been working at the Washington Post. He's now left the Post because of the issues there. And that also reminded me of another movie that I watched during a rainy day of our vacation, which it's a documentary involving Ann Telnez, who was the cartoonist at the Washington Post, who also left. And it's called democracyundersiegedoc.com. And I can very strongly recommend that as well. So anyhow, just props to the media and huge thanks to the Park Foundation for all the good work that they support, because we need our independent media now more than ever.
It's true. Iris?
Just briefly, bouncing off of remarks from Legislator Pillar, I think it's important that we think about the choices that are being made at all the levels of government that are affecting people's affordability right now. And this is sort of a comment on forward-looking. I know we have a resolution on the agenda regarding the federal government investing in economic development and housing and infrastructure. I just wanted to flag the current ongoing cost of the Iran war, which started on February 28th. It's been 80 days. The Department of Defense, or War, says it's been spent $29 billion just so far on this war. And I found Brown University has a really interesting Iran war energy cost tracker, which tracks the actual cost to American consumers of the price of the increase of gasoline and diesel. So since the war started in 80 days, it has cost American consumers over $42 billion in increased fuel prices. Just that, not the taxpayer dollars to pay for the missiles and all of the things involved in the war. So that's $327 per household in 2.5 months. Who knows how long this will go on for, but as we're thinking about our constituents dealing with energy bills that are in the hundreds of dollars a month that have gone up, this is one more thing that people can't afford. In New York, the average price of a gallon of gas is $4.61. It's up 52% in 80 days. So just to put a fine point on it. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else for legislative privilege of the floor? Okay. Why don't we go ahead and move to consent agenda really quick, because I noticed Jay Franklin is here, and we could go ahead and move that forward, and he could spend time with his family. Are there any resolutions to be added to or withdrawn from our agenda this evening? Okay, consent agenda, resolutions and appointments to be voted on as a group unless any member of the legislature requests that a resolution or appointment be instead included separately and individually as part of the business of standing or special committees. We do have some advisory board appointments. Youth Services Board, Randy Brown, Town of Newfield Representative, term expires December 21st or 31st, 2026. And Water Resources Council, Kathleen Yen, Environmental Management Council Representative, term expires December 31st, 2026. Don Montenay, Cornell Cooperative Extension Representative, term expires December 31st, 2026. Government Operations Committee, Resolution A, authorization for the Department of Assessment to procure additional modules with Tyler Technologies, ID 14060. Housing and Economic Development Committee, Resolution B, authorization to disperse county funds to the Community Housing Development Fund for Round 25, Award 610 West Court Street, ID 14055. Planning.
Yeah, I wanted B removed.
Okay. Planning, Energy, and Environmental Quality Committee, Resolution C, recognizing the Cayuga-Seneca Canal as part of the Cayuga Lake Watershed, ID 14058. And can I have a mover for consent? Moved by Adam Benson, seconded by Christie. And we can raise our hands tonight. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that is unanimous. Thank you all. Now let's go ahead and go back to our special topical presentation, and Terry Carroll is here to discuss the state of energy and sustainability.
All right, thank you all for being here tonight. Some context behind this presentation as I bring it up is that before my time, the county had a county attorney, Jonathan Wood, who gave this similar presentation every year, and it was focused on the hydroelectric facility that I'll talk about a little bit later. When I came on board, we started to talk about more broadly the energy use of the county, and then we started to coincide the presentation with Earth Day to just talk about sustainability in general. So you'll get a little bit of all those things tonight, as you'll see on this slide right here. So that's kind of what we're going to go through, is talk about our usage, our hydro production, talk a little bit about green fleet and facilities, and then some select actions we accomplished in 2025, my colleague Haley and I, and then looking ahead to 2026. So jumping right into it, you'll see this is what the electricity and natural gas usage of county operations looked like in 2025. And numbers on a screen don't really mean much without context, but this is what it looks like compared to 2024. So you'll see a slight increase from the facilities division in terms of electricity usage. We went down significantly at the airport, just over 11%. And a little bit of an outlier is that highway division where you'll see a 33% increase in electricity. We looked into this. It has to do with one particular account that are street lights on Brown Road. A bunch of them were out for part of 2024. It got fixed, and that's why you see a higher usage in 2025. On the natural gas side, you'll see the significant difference there is the airport. And this is something that we're a little unsure of why it was such a significant increase. It's looking at all of the buildings at the airport, but in looking at the airport specifically, it looks like a lot of the increase was at the terminal. And that terminal is mostly using, it should be using geothermal. And so that's something that we're investigating a little bit more. But the headline on this is that our electricity and energy spend from 2024 to 2025 increased by about 8.3%. These costs were driven in large part because of the electricity and natural gas rate increases that occurred in May of 24 and then May of 25. Some of it is due to weather differences, a cooler summer, a colder winter, but the significant increase that we can tell, at least at this point, was from those rate case and from weather variability. And what we'll see next year is a change, but it'll have to do more with our electricity contracts, which I'll touch on in a little bit later. So this is what our energy costs look like year to year. You can see that slight dip in 2022 and then just increasing year over year. And 2025 was actually the largest spend that we've seen since 2019 when we really began tracking this. And that's something that we anticipate continuing. You all see the news. We see that energy costs are increasing, unfortunately, and this is something that we anticipate dealing with continuing over the next few years and is something to think about as we look towards the next budget season and what we're budgeting for energy costs. And what you'll see here is kind of what it looks like from electricity and natural gas, and that natural gas rate is increasing. Our spend on that is increasing slightly, but really where a lot of this is coming from is from the electricity side, and a lot of that has to do with some of the changes that came from our energy contracts. So we tend to get a long-term electricity contract and a long-term energy natural gas contract. What we saw in 2022, especially in 2020, early 23, was when we redid our electricity contract, it was over a 50% jump in electricity supply costs. And so that's where you've started to see that increasing trend there. Jumping over to the Waterloo hydroelectric facility. So some of you, a couple of you will have seen this before, but because we have some new legislators, I thought we would give a little bit of a project history and how this all works. So back in 2014, a company named Gravity in Tompkins County started having conversations through MEGA about joining together to invest in a hydro facility in Waterloo, New York. In 2016, Gravity acquired Waterloo, New York and finalized what we call a power purchase agreement that sold not only the energy, but the renewable energy certificates to the county. Because we had done that long-term contract with them, that company felt comfortable making some major capital investments in the infrastructure there, including this picture that you see here of a rake, and it's actually a video. You can see the rake in action. It's pulling algae plants out of the water, and that's enabling the turbines at the hydroelectric facility to produce even more electricity. It was actually a huge accomplishment, and it really increased the amount of production from that facility, so we were really excited about that. And in 2024, Gravity Renewables was purchased by a company named Relevate Power, and so that's now who we partner with, Relevate Power, and who we still have a contract with. And so How this works is essentially the county pays Gravity a fixed rate that increases year over year for every kilowatt hour that's generated by that facility. So obviously that facility is in Waterloo, New York. We don't have wires that go directly from this building to Waterloo, New York. So what's happening is that facility is producing electricity, it's being put into the grid, it's generating revenue, and then that revenue is being basically transferred into a monetary credit that's put into our electricity bills. The process and how this works is a little archaic. NYSEG will issue us a bill that shows how much production was at the Waterloo facility. We send that bill previously to Gravity, now to Relevate, who then will invoice us based on the production. And NYSEG on the back end will assign a monetary credit for the given generation period, so it's on a monthly basis. And then over time, that'll be applied to our contracts. So if we have more power that was generated than what we used in a given month, it'll transfer month over month. So anything that's not assigned in a given month is carried over. And what you'll see in this graph is the hydroelectric facility is highly variable. There will be some months where it's fantastic and we're getting a ton of production out of it, and we'll get other months where it's just not that great. And unfortunately, what we saw in 2025 is that it just wasn't a great year for hydroelectricity. I think a lot of it had to do with drought. A lot of it had to do with, in some cases, too much water, where the levels of Seneca Lake end up being too big, and we have to divert some of the water to not go through the hydroelectric facility, since it's also being used to regulate the level of Seneca Lake. So that was a little bit of a downside. But what was very positive was that we basically saved $242,000 in 2025, which was a substantial increase, over 50% increase from what we got from the facility in 2024, which was $124,000. So it was our lowest production in years, but our highest savings. Why is that? And that's because the price of electricity in 2025 skyrocketed. And so every time that hydroelectric facility was producing electricity and putting it into the grid, we were getting about 21 cents for that. We were paying 12 cents. So we were basically making 9 cents every time that facility was producing power and being put into the grid. So the bottom line is that hydroelectric facility is one of the best things that legislature decided to do back in 2014, 2016. It's been a huge asset. It's probably, I haven't done the calculations, but I would say it's probably saved us close to $1 million since we've gotten that facility. So it's been incredible and really shows what it means when we make, smart, forward-thinking decisions and thinking about how this is going to work out over time operationally. Turning to the fleet, we have about 27.5% of our fleet electrified at this time. It's a slight decrease from previous years. That has to do less with us not necessarily getting more electric vehicles, although we've slowed down how many electric vehicles we're getting year to year, but also because we've added more non-electric vehicles to the fleet. On the other side, we're leasing vehicles from Enterprise Fleet Management. We're up to 52 vehicles, and we're leasing vehicles for our Sheriff's Office, Whole Health, which is public health and mental health, and then also for DSS. This slide, you can see kind of year over year where things are going. I will say these numbers, they're a little tricky. We take this as a snapshot in time. Starting last year, Jesse, our risk and compliance officer, and I will do an end of year inventory and take that snapshot. And so that was starting last year, but in previous years, this was kind of sporadic throughout the year. And so these numbers didn't necessarily always reflect where we were at the end of the year. It reflected where we were when we updated the inventory in that period of time. And so but you can see we've kind of stagnated on where we are in terms of BEVs, which are battery electric vehicles, and plug-in hybrid electric vehicles. And we've kind of stayed a little bit consistent right around that 140 to 150 number for internal combustion engine vehicles. On the green facilities side, we had a green facilities capital project. We had been engaging in phase 2 of that project this previous year, and it's continued into this year. So those 2 projects were a new set of boilers at the Human Services Building. I'm happy to announce that those are complete and have been operational this previous winter. And we are also hopefully engaging shortly in constructing the solar at the Health Department. It underwent a lot of work on Maury's part. as well as several others, of course, got involved in that as well. But we're hopeful that we'll see interconnection. It says August here. My latest word from Johnson Controls last week was that we're probably looking at closer to September, but we're still very hopeful about seeing some solar generation this year on that project. Speaking of solar and renewables in general, there are several projects that we're looking at and that we're talking about with various partners. And so many years ago, we were looking at doing a solar array at our landfill at Caswell Road. Unfortunately, that project ended, but we were also looking at solar at the airport. We had thought that project had also sunset, but recently we were approached by the New York Power Authority that wanted to continue looking at that project. So we're actively evaluating what the potential for solar at our airport is, and potentially including battery energy storage. So we're excited about continuing that partnership there. We're still looking at the plans that were created for Bostwick Road in the Human Service Building. Originally, they were tried to be shoot into phase 2 of the Green Facilities Project. It didn't quite work out in terms of funding, but as electricity prices are rising, we're reevaluating whether there's a business case to be shown with those projects. And so we'll come back as we evaluate those projects. And right now what we're doing is trying to get new cost estimates for what they might look like. And then the other thing of note is that we have several rooftop solar leases at several, probably I think 6 or 7 facilities in Tompkins County. Those contracts are ending this year and in 2027, and we're in active conversations about what we're going to do with those rooftop leases. I think some of them we're just going to have the company take the solar panels off and remove them, and a couple others we're looking at extending the leases. And what's difficult with the solar leases is that at this time we're not able to track exactly how much solar production is coming from them. There was a change in the software that the vendor was using. They wanted to charge us about $2,000 to $3,000 per building to get a different solution, and we just decided that it wasn't quite worth it for how long the solar was going to remain on our buildings. And so we're still trying to understand that a little bit more, but we'll be looking at what alternatives we can do in the future as we remove those solar leases. The district geothermal project, we've talked about it with you as well as at the F&I committee. We did that test well. We're working on schematic design and detailed design with the center of government. We're looking at doing a central system in the old jail with a potential phase 1 at the center of government, phase 2 looking at doing this building as well as the old jail, and potentially a phase 2 or phase 3 for the main courthouse. And so we'll be coming to the F&I committee with more information on that probably next month, I would say. Members of Peak will recall that I was at your last meeting presenting the greenhouse gas inventory. That's one of the reasons why this report was delayed from around Earth Day, as I was enmeshed in doing the greenhouse gas inventory, and you can see snapshots of what our government operations emissions were and our community emissions. If you want more information on that, I believe we sent out the packet with the actual report itself, but you can also check out that Peak committee meeting where we gave probably a 20-minute presentation on that, and I'm happy to answer any questions off of those. Another big accomplishment for this year, over this last couple of years, but especially this past year, was working with our partners in the whole health department in public health with their Healthy Neighborhoods program to help disseminate induction cooktop stoves to residents with gas stoves. To date, we have basically been able to give out 163 induction cooktops and compatible cookware. We've collected 52 survey responses. They've been overwhelmingly positive. People love this project. And we've created a video case study that we'll be sharing with folks at the next Peak committee meeting that's really geared at trying to get the state to take this statewide with their Healthy Neighborhoods program. We were only able to do this because we were awarded a $30,000 grant from NYSERDA to do this project and really targeting reducing emissions. But these are fantastic also for the public health outcomes. So we're really hoping the state takes that on board and continues on with it. Last year, with the generous funding of the legislature, we were able to host a statewide sustainability conference on September 11th through 13th. We had 28 attendees representing 22 municipalities from around New York State. We had local presentations from ourselves, Crowd, which is a local group here in Tompkins County, the Park Foundation, a digital twin initiative out of Cornell University, as well as some peer learning presentations. It was so successful, it inspired the group, which is the meeting of sustainability officials in New York State, to host another meeting. So they've created a group. They're passing bylaws on Thursday, and they'll be hosting their own sustainability conference in June of this year in Utica. And so something that we started here will continue to live on year after year. And so we're really excited about what we were able to do to galvanize that group to move forward. Our Business Energy Advisor program had a good year. We basically were able to get support from the Park Foundation. We won a $108,000 grant to continue to run the program through at least 25, 26, and into probably 27 and 28. We completed 3 projects and had another 2 that were started later in the year that we're continuing on into this year. And so we're really excited about the developments in that project, and we're seeing more development come through after a somewhat slower year in 2025. The rate case, we've talked about the rate case. NYSEG came in and spoke with all of you. We've coordinated throughout the year with Peak. The latest on the rate case is, I don't know how many of you are familiar. I think Haley sent a note out, an email to all the legislators that there was an order from the Public Service Commission last Thursday that established temporary rates and asked the parties to go back to negotiations. That's where things have been left. Right now, we're waiting to hear from staff and DPS staff and the NYSEG staff on whether they want to restart negotiations or not. It's not really up to us. I think for our part, we'd be happy to go back. I think there's some things that we could definitely discuss, but we'll see what could happen there. I will say also that there was a meeting earlier today that NYSEG hosted for municipal leaders. They gave out some interesting information. I'm trying to get the slides from NYSEG. Once I get those, I'll give them to all of you as well. But they also gave out some handouts on what the temporary increases look like that include what the potential bill increases will look like for residential customers. And so I'll be happy to take photocopies of those and send them out to everyone as well. A little bit of disappointing news, our EV fast charger that we were trying to get at the Tompkins County Airport, we reported, I believe, to F&I that it's not going to proceed due to some site limitations. Where we're now working through is that unfortunately it came after NYSEG had already done the easement that we had required for the project, so now we're trying to get them to release the easement. The last time we had a conversation with them, they couldn't find it. So we're trying to figure out what's going on there. But they seem amenable to releasing the easement, so at least we have that.
I'm glad we debated about that for 3 hours.
I know. It was like a week later that they told us that they didn't want to move forward. It was frustrating. Looking ahead to 2026, to this year, a battery energy storage system training. This actually just happened 2 days ago. We had 56 attendees, so it was very heavily attended. People were really interested to learn about the economics of battery energy storage. They were really interested to learn about the safety elements and the code elements as well. And so this is something that we've done to some success the last couple of years, is hosting these trainings for our municipal partners. And this time we made it a little bit more regional so that other counties within the southern tier could attend as well. So that's something we're really happy to do and provide that service to other municipalities. On the backs of our greenhouse gas inventory, we'll be working on our climate action plan. And so we'll be conducting outreach and presenting some information related to that to Peak in the upcoming months, but then doing more and more outreach to the community at large in the back half of this year. We look forward to the completion of the solar canopy at Brown Road, continuing to work on the Center of Government project and the potential district energy system. We're looking at battery energy storage at some of our different facilities to help lower our electricity bills through reducing the peak demand. And then we've already passed we've already done one natural gas supply contract. We now need to do our electricity supply contract. So that's something that we're also looking forward to completing in 2026. So it's been a busy 2025, looking forward to a busy 2026. We're already in a busy 2026, but flew through that. Don't want to take up too much of your time, but happy to answer any questions you might have on any of this.
Any questions for Terry? Irene and then Randy.
Yeah, a couple of quick ones, Terry. Great news on the Waterloo facility. I wonder what percentage of our electricity use do we get from that facility? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, it varies year to year. It's been as low as a third and as high as 50%. I know from doing the greenhouse gas inventory that in 2024, it represented, I think, 43 or 46% of our electricity usage. Obviously, last year, it was about 3 million kilowatt hours, and we used 7 million, so probably, what, 40-ish%?
Great. And then the other was about Brown Road and the streetlights.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've switched over to LED, yeah? In the county?
I don't know that we have, actually.
Oh.
It becomes a little confusing about who owns the streetlights and if you're
them, yeah.
leasing the streetlights, and so that's something that we're definitely taking a look at. And I've sent some emails to NICEAG and talked with Highway a little bit. It's a little confusing for a while. We didn't know what the account was because the NICEAG bill wasn't real clear on that. But we have a better sense now, and we're trying to sort through all of that.
Okay, yeah, it'd be great if we're not using LED, obviously.
Yeah.
I know. That was one of the first things you got involved in for the county was
many
working
years
with
ago
different
with
municipalities.
All of them, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, great. I mean, it's all of it great work and really a lot of work, so thank you.
Yeah.
Randy?
Thanks for the presentation, for flying through it like that. So in the green fleets, is it 200 vehicles roughly that we had at the end of 20?
Yeah, ish, I would say. So it gets a little complicated because we tend to hold on to some vehicles until towards the end of the year, and then we auction them off. And so there'll be some vehicles that we'll have that aren't really technically part of the fleet, but we're just holding on to them in case something goes wrong, typically at the sheriff's office with deer hits.
And so we passed a resolution recently, we're going to put technology into all, so will every car have that technology in it?
So we passed the resolution at budget. I believe it's going to F&I on Thursday, and then you should see it at the legislature, I'm hopeful, on June 2nd.
Okay, I'll save my questions for that. And the last thing, if you could, in a future meeting at FI or maybe at Peak or both, just give us a recap of the investments we've made in the green energy program over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Just to show the dollar, and also not only the county funds, but funds you got from grants and other things, so we see the total amount and the values of what you did.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, Iris?
Thanks, Terry. Lots of great updates, and I do have a few questions.
Yeah.
I've always been frustrated, or over the past few years, that NIPA didn't have any projects in Tompkins County, so I'm curious how big the project is that they're considering and how we can support moving it forward.
Yeah. It's not a huge project. It'll be somewhere in the kind of 5 megawatt-ish area. The difficulty that we're facing right now is the sunset of the federal tax credits makes the project particularly difficult to pencil. But on the flip side, electricity rates rising makes it a little bit easier. And so right now, what the last conversation I had with them, it was basically solar on its own would be very difficult to make work, but solar plus batteries might have the potential. And what we're discussing now is kind of what model it could look like, whether it makes sense for the county to try and do a power purchase agreement like what we did with the Waterloo facility, whether it makes sense for us to own it. And so, we've given them a bunch of information on our peak usage at the airport terminal, and they're doing a study right now on what battery storage would look like for that. And we'll come to F&I in a future meeting, hopefully in a couple of months to share what the outcome of that is, and hopefully have a project proposal for folks to take a look at.
That would be great. I would love to see that happen. I was also curious for the green fleet numbers.
Yeah.
I know I've heard folks complain about EVs sometimes. I don't know if that is why we're seeing that the proportion has not really changed, but could you speak to any efforts to continue to increase the ratio of EVs or plug-in hybrids to gas?
We run into a couple of issues. One is that if you look at the makeup of our fleet, the 2 departments with the highest number of vehicles are the highway department and the sheriff's office. And those are 2 departments that are particularly difficult to electrify. We've made some attempts at both departments, really, but something like the F-350 that they're using for plowing or for supervising or for towing becomes exceedingly difficult to electrify and not spend a lot of money. With the sheriff's department, the issue that we've run into there is finding the right vehicle. And we've tested a couple of different ones out. Right now, we are testing a Chevy Blazer that's specifically made for police that has some good early results. But the issue that we deal with there has to do more with the charging infrastructure. And so the decisions that are going to be made around the future public safety building and kind of a reticence to invest too much money in a facility that has a little bit of an unclear future. Since to put in any more charging at the facility would require a substantial investment to the electric service. And then what you'll see is that a lot of the other vehicles that we already have, almost every vehicle at the health department, at DSS, at a lot of the departments that only have one or two vehicles, COFA, ITS, assessment, those are all already electrified. And so it's really targeting some of those harder to electrify ones that I think will get us there. But we're struggling with the options now, and especially the prices related to some of those options.
Last question. The hydro facility sounds like such a win.
Yeah.
Is there an opportunity for us to invest in more hydro, potentially on Cayuga Lake or somewhere nearby?
Yeah, the hydro is difficult because of the locations of where it has to go. I wish Mike Sigler was here because he's been a huge proponent of doing hydro facility at, here in Tompkins County at, either Second Dam or somewhere along those lines. One conversation that we did have with Gravity previously, but we haven't revisited recently with Relevate, is that the facility in Waterloo was set up to be able to have, I believe it's 4 turbines, and there's currently only 3 operational there. And so we had some early discussions on whether a 4th turbine at that facility would justify the investment needed to put it in. And there's some years where it would, those high water years where it absolutely could make a difference, but then there's years like last year where it wouldn't necessarily. And so the business case was somewhat shaky at that point, but it's worth having the conversation with Relevate once again, and certainly we'd look for other potential opportunities around the area in New York State, but at this time there's just not a heck of a lot of money being invested in hydroelectric.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Dan, and then Judith?
Thank you, Jay. It's interesting, we just did a resolution supporting the watershed agreement, which is this waterway that this facility sits on. So,
yeah.
I was looking at your page 3, the energy use. You break it down by divisions.
Yeah.
Of course, recognize all the division, all the different areas there. Facilities being the big one, and that's a lump of everything that's not enumerated here. Do we have any other big ones? The one that I'm particularly curious about, I would think that the jail facility and the sheriff's office would be a large user. Is that in facilities, and why didn't we break it out, or is it small enough that it doesn't matter?
So I apologize, I should have broken this down a little bit. So facilities is essentially almost every one of our facilities that aren't part of the airport. Doer, as you'll see there, is almost only exclusively the cell phone towers, the emergency towers that they run.
Okay.
The recycling and materials management is actually the landfill and then their solid waste center at I think it's the solid waste center. And then highway is just street lights. So it's not, highway isn't like the public works facility. So we don't break out any specific buildings in this. Almost all of our buildings are aggregated under facilities or airport. With that said, if you look at the greenhouse gas inventory, we do have a breakdown in there of how much energy each of those buildings was using.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Judith?
Thanks very much, Terry. I wanted to follow up on the question that Iris had about our fleet.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, with this new equipment that we'll be installing, is there a way that we can track not just electric versus not electric, but something about the mileage that we're getting? A more efficient vehicle is a win.
Yeah.
Right? Is that something that we'll be able to capture more effectively?
Yeah, we should be able to get the numbers on how much fuel they're using, the WEX fill-ups, and then be able to see. I will say that even though we don't talk about it in this report, we've been, obviously focused quite a bit on electrification. What we have seen is definitely strides in what the miles per gallon of a lot of our vehicles are. Where, again, it becomes difficult is, when we move from an older F-350 to a newer F-350, it might be going from 7 miles a gallon to 9 miles per gallon. We're not seeing, a gigantic leap. It's still an improvement.
Still a big percentage.
It's still, yeah, exactly. So it is something that we could do a better job tracking and reporting, is the improvement on miles per gallon. And I think if you were to look at our greenhouse gas inventory, you would see you'd see how much gas and diesel the county has consumed over time. It gets a little difficult to parse just because of the difference in vehicles from time period to time period. But that's something, yeah, I'll make a note of it. We'll try and do a better job tracking and reporting it out in future years.
Thanks. And I just wanted to clarify this Waterloo facility, which, like Dan, I'm kind of fascinated that I've learned so much about this canal. What an opportunity. The money we're saving, that's on generation costs. We still face these delivery charge increases from NYSEG, or are we insulated from delivery charges at all?
So we're not insulated from any charges exactly. So what ends up happening is NYSEG will charge us, take this facility, for instance, we'll get a bill for this facility that'll be using the contract that we negotiated for electricity and natural gas. It'll include the NYSEG delivery rates. And then what will happen is based on the monetary credits that were produced at the hydroelectric facility, it'll just be, say, like minus $10,000 for whatever you spent on that building. And so we're still not insulated because of this from the NYSEG rates. It's not until we actually have on-site generation that we're able to insulate ourselves from the supply increases or the delivery increases that NYSEG has, unfortunately.
But we're effectively, we're paying one rate per kilowatt hour to Waterloo, and we're being, well, okay. I'm not going to try to make it make sense in words right now, but it feels like we have some insulation against generation charges because we have some fixed rate that we've calculated, that we've negotiated on generation.
Yeah.
But delivery charges, I'm assuming, are something that we're just, like everybody else, leaf on the wind.
Yeah. The one caveat I would say is there is always the chance, and it has happened. It happened very early on in the contract, and it hasn't happened much since then, that the rate that we would pay to the hydroelectric facility would be above what the market rate would be. So we would technically be underwater. We would be paying them for power twice, essentially, almost in some instances. That hasn't happened in many years. And when it did happen previously, the company made us whole and basically supplied a one-time payment to help out. But yeah, that potential does still exist, although we haven't seen it in many years. And with the way prices are going, we don't really anticipate it happening again.
Great. Any other questions? Okay. Why don't we take a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back and we'll do county administration, finance, county attorney, and then we'll do standing committees reports. Thank you. Not yet. Okay, that's a thumbs up. Okay. We are going to move to reports from county administration. Bursa Kumpi.
Yes, thank you. I have quite a few short report. So the first item I want to quickly discuss, we have Jay is still on. I asked Jay to stay and join us. I think during the budget retreat we discussed equalization and asset value on some few things. So I invited Jay to just highlight some of the things that goes into determine some of our valuations and rates like that. So I'll hand it over to Jay.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me. Hopefully you can get out a little early and enjoy the beautiful sun. Yeah, so for the 2026 assessment roll, last year, at least some of you voted to pause the annual reassessment program. So along with that, all it really does is it stops us from maintaining a 100% level of assessment. So this year, in conjunction with New York State, we measured our assessment roll, and we found out that on average, the parcels are valued at 95% of their value. So when I filed the 2026 tentative assessment roll on May 1, I declared a 95% level of assessment on that assessment roll. So what that means is your $300,000 assessment now means a value of $315,789. So when in previous years we would have went through, determined which parcels needed to be revalued to maintain 100% level of assessment, this year we just painted with a very wide brush and determined that the overall level of assessment on that assessment roll was 95%. So rather than sending out 26,000 change notices, I think we sent out about 1,000 change notices altogether. So we only collected new construction, just any renovations, demolitions, deterioration, any new parcels that were valued. We didn't apply any market-based changes to that. So it was really just any physical changes that were put on the roll. So the 40 million that the city of Ithaca was talking about was simply new lumber. So I would also encourage you all, if you haven't, watch the March 10th Government Operations Committee. That's when I presented the annual report for our, my year ends really on July 1. It really ends on May 1 when I file the tentative assessment roll. But we do a preliminary roll every year in March. It gives people kind of an informal way to contest their assessment. So that's why I do that in March.
Thank you, Jay. Any questions for Jay? Boy, that's a first. No questions, Jay.
No. The only other thing I was going to talk about was the average or median assessed value as well. One, as we're constantly trying to update our inventory and record parcels in a better way for us to value it, it affected the median assessed value of single-family homes. And why that is we started to list double wides as a manufactured housing building style. It was something that New York State didn't allow until probably 10 years ago, but we never had the capacity to switch over those double wides from what's called an improvement, something like a deck, garage. So we only were able to list length, width, and age. So this last year, we went about and said, all right, let's change this into something that's more useful. We call it a single family or a 1-unit property, but it's a manufactured home building style. So I don't want people to think this change is now going to cause double wides to be compared to your normal stick-built ranch. But it's just a way for us to record better inventory about those double wides. And that also caused a revision within the median value of that single family home. So, it wasn't just because lower valued houses were being built. we made a change to better our records, but it also affected your calculations. So I just wanted to explain that as well.
Okay. Veronica?
I guess I do have a question, not about that. The whole time I've been on the legislature, I've mostly never felt like I understood what it meant to be at 80% assessment versus 100% assessment, or why it mattered. And recently, I learned, I think, that the percent level of assessment you're at only matters practically if a tax levying jurisdiction, like a school district, crosses multiple assessing jurisdictions that are going at different percentages. Is that true?
Yeah, so the real property tax law says we have to assess at a uniform percentage of market value. So that could be 1%, it could be 50%. A lot of the times it's just easier at 100%. It's more transparent. Someone can look at their assessment. Could I sell my property for that? But yes, it really only matters when taxing jurisdictions are spread between different assessing units. In most other places, that happens at the town level, but for us, it happens at the school level. And I know you all are subscribing to my department's newsletter, and on May 1, that's kind of where we showed that. I used the Dryden Central School District as an example, and I believe it was the town of Homer assesses at a much less percentage of value than we did in Tompkins County. And that showed that their tax rate was much higher to account for that different level of assessment. In simplistic terms, if you're assessing at 50% and another place is assessing at 100%, the place that's at 50% will have double the tax rate as an assessed value that has 100%. It's just a way to make sure that properties that are worth the same are paying the same regardless of what the level of assessment is.
It's very possible that it was, in fact, your newsletter was the place that I maybe learned this, so thank you for confirming.
Yep.
Any other questions for Jay or comments? Okay, thank you, Jay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take some of that ice cream there. That looks really good, Veronica. I mean, all right, have a great night, y'all. Take care.
You go creamery if you're close.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'll move on to the budget retreat. So we had a retreat last week. Our current projection indicate approximately about 17% property tax levy increase over 2026 adopted levy to fund service at the current level. The budget office, we intend to produce a recommended budget that will include lower than the projected tax levy increase. The department has begun working to submit their plan into our financial or our budget system. What we have communicated to department is for each department to submit specific cost reduction or control, and also revenue enhancement proposals that will support us to close that gap. So we are looking at some personnel cost management, we are looking at revenue maximization, we are looking at our purchase services and contract, possible shared services and consolidation. So we're talking about opportunity to share services across department with municipal partners. Department should also, we are asking department to proactively identify functions that could be consolidated or reorganized or delivered through intergovernmental arrangement and things of that nature. We're also talking about technology and efficiency, some aspect of technology that we can deploy to enhance our services and manage costs. And also, we're going to spend a lot of time for the rest of this year and the coming year and seeking some grants pipeline and providing some, seeking some funding to support the way we deliver services. And that is very key for us to be able to achieve those revenue maximization or cost control mechanisms. The other report that I have, unfortunately, one of our vehicles at the highway was involved in an accident today. 2 of our staff members were involved. They are all fine. They went into the hospital and got released home. That happened about 3 or 4 hours ago. And they're doing well. They are back to their families now. The vehicle was completely totaled. I believe it happened at Henshaw, somewhere up there in Henshaw Road. And the other vehicle was also completely totaled. The other vehicle crossed a red light and T-boned our vehicle. It rolled over, I believe, once or twice, and it's completely gone. But the staff are doing very well, so we are really happy about that. The staff are evaluating and working with our insurance companies and things of that nature. What our primary concern is the staff. We are glad that they are home, and we will check on them tomorrow morning, make sure they're okay, and if there's any issue, we will continue to report to you. So those are the items I want to report on today.
Great, thank you. Dan?
Our staff is okay, great, thank you. How about the other vehicle part people?
I did not receive information from highways about those individuals, but I believe there was no significant issues in terms of the people involved in the accident, so I presume they're doing well as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Corsa? Okay, thanks, Corsa. Next, let's move on to Maury, County Attorney.
Good evening. I am just back. Holly and I went to the County Attorneys Association of New York annual meeting yesterday and today. And interestingly, there were 10 topics presented. Of those, 9 of the 10 have come my way within the past couple of weeks. So it was definitely a good selection of topics, and I was able to see that we're pretty much on the cutting edge of resolving some of the problems. The 9 that have surfaced in the past couple of weeks are conflicts of interest, cybersecurity, labor and employment, First Amendment issues, admissibility of electronic evidence, and affirmative litigation on behalf of counties. Those are basically the opioid cases, and now there are some pharmacy benefit management cases. The one that hasn't come up in the past couple of weeks was actually the most entertaining, which which is interesting because the subject matter was SEC issues with municipal securities, issues that county attorneys need to know. That comes up once a year, basically, with Darrell. So we got lots of good information. County attorney must be pretty much the best job in the state because they were giving out awards for longevity at various county attorneys' offices across the state. And some counties, had attorneys who've been there for 40 years, 35 years, 30 years. So it is indeed a wonderful job, and it was great to see the level of talent that is in these offices across the state. That is basically my report for tonight, considering that I started with some HR stuff at 5:30 this morning and then drove back from Cooperstown in the afternoon. But I welcome any questions.
Any questions for Maury? Okay, thanks, Maury. Next is Daryl Tuttle, our Director of Finance.
Good evening. I don't actually have anything new to report or update this time, but I do welcome any questions if anyone has any.
Any questions or comments for Daryl? Okay, thanks, Daryl. Let's go ahead and move on to standing and special committees. We'll start with Budget, Capital, and Personnel Committee. Deborah Dawson, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We did have a very robust agenda at our meeting last Monday. We got special reports from our Director of Finance and our HR staff Daryl gave us an overview of the pros and cons and problems with centralizing county finance, and Ruby and Amy Radcliffe presented us with possible models for family caregiver leave policy. Other than that, I have one resolution to offer. That is D, budget adjustment, Department of Social Service and Department of Energy, Emergency Response, transition of security officers, and that is ID 14076, and I so move.
Can I have a seconder, please? Seconded by Iris Beckman.
This is just in order to implement our decision to have our security services be provided centrally by Dewar for the entire county.
Okay, any questions or comments on this resolution? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. And that is unanimous. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Any questions for Deborah? Comments? Okay, moving on to Facilities and Infrastructure Committee, Lee Shurtleff, Chair.
Facilities and Infrastructure will be meeting this Thursday, the 21st at 10 o'clock in the morning. We have a rather lengthy agenda, and there will be some presentations of note. One on the Center of Government project update, one regarding green facilities installation contract, and one from recycling and materials management waste composition projections. So a lot of information to be shared this week.
Great. Any questions or comments for Lee? Thank you, Lee. Next is Government Operations Committee, Randy Brown, Chair.
Thanks, Shanna. We met last Tuesday on the 12th. We had a good presentation discussion with the Library Director, Emerson Lane, and he gave us updates on purchases for the books and how they're catching up on all that. And we talked also about what we wanted to see when they came before us for budgets. And what information we wanted to see, and I think they're looking much closer at their finances and their fund balances and what's restricted, much like we did years ago. And so I think that they're really getting their work in order for that for us to see. We also talked about our goals, and one of the things we talked about was the finance consolidation, and we want to support that, but we think we agree it should go through budget and capital, but we want to support budget and capital however they want, maybe a joint meeting if you want any assistance from us, or if on any of the project as it goes. It's an operations thing, so we want to understand how we can help the process if we can. We also talked about the homestead tax option quite a bit. And Judith, you want to jump in or not, but we heard from Jay on the options for that. It's not as easy as it sounds, obviously, but to see if it's choices. And basically, can we charge people different, one entity differently from another, but jump right in.
Sure. The homestead tax option is a New York State tax law that allows a municipality to have different tax rates for commercial and residential properties according to specific criteria. It really tries to level out changes in assessment from year to year, so that if you have a significant increase in the assessed value of one class of properties, for instance, residential compared to commercial, it then gives the municipality some range of options for how to address that with the tax code. Do you try to have taxes increase in the same way across those two different groups, which would mean different tax rates, or do you just follow the changes in assessment and thereby have the same percentage change for each group, but in taxes, sorry, that got a little confusing. Anyway, it's something that I think would give us some options when it comes to budget season. It would allow us to evaluate how taxes are changing across groups. It would allow us to avoid large increases for our residential homeowners in years where assessments for residential properties go up a lot, by balancing that out with commercial properties. But it's something that we're still learning about, and we'll hear more about it in July at the next government operation, not the next government operations meeting, but the one after that. So I encourage you all to attend if you're interested, and we can continue to explore the option.
Judith, when would we have to make a decision if we wanted to move forward with that in order for it to be for next year's?
I don't know the answer to that. We're supposed to get a presentation from, well, we're hoping we'll get a presentation from New York State in July, so then they would be able to give us that information. There's some rules about what your starting point has to be in terms of what your recent assessment has looked like. And I'm not sure that anybody has opted into the system for some time. I think the policy was created in the 1980s, and some number of municipalities opted in then. So now they have very different tax rates for those two different groups. But I think it's kind of laying sort of dormant. Thank you, Deborah. Whereas a number of municipalities use it and other ones maybe don't know that it exists. So it's something that if we opted into it, we might be unusual in New York State, not for having it, but for having changed the way we do it. It's not a very common thing to do these days. But I will say, in the last 5 years, we've seen very significant changes in our assessments that have impacted our homeowners a lot, and that have not impacted commercial owners in the same way. So the taxes have increased much faster on residential owners than on commercial owners, and that's exactly what this policy would allow us to avoid in the future.
So would it be a home rule and we'd have to do a public hearing? No.
It could be, I'm just quickly researching as we're talking, but it can be done by local law, apparently, subject to confirmation, and the local law needs to be enacted no later than 60 days before completion of the tentative assessment roll it applies to. So I don't know what that date is, but we can get that from Jay.
Okay.
I think it was May 1st. Yep, so next year. Yep.
Okay.
I also have a resolution.
Okay.
And it's resolution number E, creation of senior motor vehicle examiner position, Tompkins County Clerk, Office ID number 14045, and I move that.
Seconded by Greg Mezzi. Deborah?
Thank you. This went through BCP as well. And when it went through BCP, we were given to understand that this was a position that would only be filled for a short time. In order to get somebody in the pipeline when everybody moves up one rung at the end of this year when the DMV deputy retires. One of the concerns that some of my colleagues have expressed is that creating this position and then leaving it on the books is going to put us right back where we were a while back when we had a whole bunch of these positions that were unfilled. And at any time, a department head could decide to fill that position. So I have a question. Is it possible to create a position on a temporary basis? Is there any legal prohibition against that?
Corsa?
No, there's no legal prohibition. We can create a position and put a cap on it. So any new person getting into that position will know that at the end of that term, they are out of job. We do similar things with grant-funded positions, and I think we did similar thing with the shelter workers. We created those positions with the staff knowing that if the county doesn't run shelter anymore, they will be out of work.
Well, because I would really like to offer an amendment to this, but I want to be sure that I'm not running afoul of anything. Because my amendment would be that it would be the creation of a temporary senior motor vehicle examiner position. And then in line 9, it would at the end of uninterrupted operations and continuity of service, I would add when the current DMV deputy retires at the beginning of 2027. And then the resolved clause would read, the Tompkins County Legislature authorizes the temporary creation of the following position, effective upon adoption of this resolution and continuing until the current DMV deputy retires. Because we would be hiring a person on the understanding that they would be moved up as soon as the positions turn over.
That's friendly.
I would second.
Okay, is there anyone that is unfriendly to? Okay. That will, Dan?
Just point of order, can we get the exact wording of that?
Oh, I'll just hand it to Taylor.
Okay.
Oh, but you want to hear it again?
Yeah.
Sure.
You want to read it again?
No.
Okay, so the title would be Creation of the Temporary Motor Vehicle Examiner position. The second whereas would read, the Tompkins County Clerk's Office has developed a comprehensive succession plan for the DMV unit in anticipation of the retirement of the DMV deputy, establishing a 4-tier leadership pipeline to ensure uninterrupted operations and continuity of service when the current DMV deputy retires at the beginning of 2027. And then the resolved would read, on recommendation of the Budget, Capital, and Personnel and Government Operations Committee, that the Tompkins County Legislature authorizes the temporary creation of the following position, effective upon adoption of this resolution and continuing until the current DMV deputy retires. I mean, it may seem kind of redundant, but there were lots of concerns about this not being a permanent position.
No, you're right. And I appreciate you letting me take a look at that earlier. I should have taken better notes with that. I was looking for an end date, and your until is the end date that I wanted.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. I'll just give this to Taylor.
That's great. Okay, any other comments on Resolution 14045? Okay. Let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Randy, anything else for you?
No, we're good.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Randy? Okay. Next is Health and Human Services Committee. Travis Brooks, Chair.
We have not met since our last meeting. We actually meet tomorrow at 1 p.m. That's it.
GL numbers?
Is this HHS?
Oh, sorry. I get so confused. You're the chair of everything.
No, I'm not. I'll give them to you in a second.
Okay. Next is Housing and Economic Development Committee. Greg Mezzi, Chair.
Thank you, Shauna. We last met on Wednesday, May the 6th. We had a relatively full agenda. We had a brief discussion on the ongoing Tompkins County minimum wage study. We have a number of resolutions before us tonight. We had a presentation from our tourism program, and then also Visit Ithaca 2025 annual report, which is done by the Convention Visitors Bureau in concert with the Chamber of Commerce. So that was all part of the meeting. I do have, I believe, 3 resolutions tonight. The first I'd like to move, which was pulled from the consent agenda by Legislator Brown, is Resolution B, authorization to disperse county funds to the Community Housing Development Fund, CHDF, for Round 25 Award 610 West Court Street, ID number 14055, and I would so move.
Seconded by Veronica Pillar.
We have David West here from our planning department, who is all things housing and community development. So I will pass it over to him to introduce the resolution and field any questions from my colleagues.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg and legislators. This resolution provides permission to disperse funding to this home that was awarded in round 25 last year. Funding from the Community Housing Development Fund. This particular award comes from our IDA workforce housing policy. So all those big apartments in downtown that have received pilots are paying into a fund that comes to us to fund affordable housing. So that's the source of these funds. The county holds those funds. So whenever we're going to disperse them towards this project, we have to come to you for a resolution approving that. As all projects in this program are, this proposal was reviewed by the Program Oversight Committee, which has members of each of the partner organizations, that being the county, the city of Ithaca, Cornell, and associate members, the town of Dryden and the town of Ithaca. So that group recommended approval of this project, and then we come to you when they're ready to disperse. So they've pulled building permits, it's time to disperse, and I'm happy to discuss the project itself as well as the program. Any questions you guys might have?
Thank you. Randy Brown.
Yeah, I submitted the questions. I'm not sure if you got them or not, David, but I think it's a great program. One of the questions I have is if you could provide us a summary of the dollars are out there for this program, showing how the money has moved over the last couple of years. Not necessarily for the projects, but just know how much money's in it now and how much have we spent. But also I was curious, I don't remember seeing a lot of Habitat for Humanity projects in Tompkins County. Maybe I'm mistaken by that, but is this fairly new for them, or I know Ithaca Neighborhood Housing is involved, but I was just curious about that.
Yeah, the program has funded a lot of Habitat for Humanity projects. I was just looking at a map that we were developing, and we've funded projects from Habitat in Village of Groton, Town of Ulysses, several in the city, including there's a ribbon cutting tomorrow for a duplex on Plain Street that this program funded from Habitat. A home in Town of Danby, near the border of Caroline. So they've been doing work, they don't do as many homes as quickly as INHS, but they're always working on a few, and they've actually been increasing speed lately, which is great to see.
The other reason I bring it up is I did a survey with somebody else over the last few months, and there are 14 empty houses in my district as well as 9 empty mobile homes. And so I spoke to Enfield and Newfield about it, and there's a program out there where they need to have at least 4 homes to through neighborhood housing to get funding for rehabbing these empty homes for housing. And so I just want to make you aware of that. I'm not sure. I've done this survey. I have the addresses of all these homes. There's actually many more of those, but I think some may be seasonal. Some are in bad condition. It can't be repaired, and some can. So I just want to make you aware that those towns are interested in some of this project stuff. And I'm not sure who should take the lead, but if you want me to, I will, or I'll work with you any way I can.
Sure. So I think one of the things that's difficult about those situations where you see, oh, there's a house, it's a mess, we don't like it, what do we do, is it's owned by somebody, and that somebody has to be ready to do a project. There's 2 or 3 ways that we often approach that. So if it's owned by a low-income homeowner and they're just having trouble taking care of their homes, we currently have a program that's about out of time and out of funding, but we'll be applying for more, that runs through Ithaca Neighborhood Housing Services, that our department applies for funds and then uses those funds for 2 years and then applies again. So we're currently running on an extension on our last program, but we'll be looking to apply again this year. Those programs generally help around 10 low-income homeowners per program. So you have to income qualify, and you have to own the home, and you have to be willing to work with INHS to get through that program. Towns can also come for, put up funds to go after that grant themselves. So the town of Danby, the town of Dryden, and the town of Groton have all been very proactive about pursuing their own town-specific programs to pursue those funds, and a lot of them have received help from the county's Housing and Supportive Infrastructure Grant, the HASIG program, to hire grant writers to write that grant. We're also designing our housing strategy work this year in a way that will help all of the municipalities have the kind of prep work that they need to be successful in those applications. And then the other is, if a house comes on the market for cheap or someone's willing to sell it to someone like INHS or Habitat, I know they're always looking for deals that they could turn around and rehab or, tear down and replace.
Okay. I'll share information with you.
Great.
Great. I think this is one of the programs over the years that we have actually seen that addresses affordability and home ownership. And this is actually one of the only tools that this legislature has. So whenever we are able to contribute, and of course, a lot of people like to think of the IDA as the big bad, whatever. But I think, there is some good that comes out of the IDA. The subsidies that are provided to this program are really incredible and has really been able to place people into homes and help them become homeowners, which is really a massive goal for all of us. Greg.
Yeah, Shauna, thanks for mentioning that. And these are the type of homes that will remain affordable through various deed restrictions, right? David, is that the
Yes.
Yeah. And David, too, I just also wanted to maybe give you an opportunity to quickly plug the governor's initiative. I'm blanking on the pro-housing communities.
Oh, yes.
And encourage all of my legislative colleagues to go back to the municipalities they represent if they're not already participating, and encourage them to engage with county planning, which one of our roles is to assist municipalities that may not have planning capacity with navigating, and David and his team have generously offered their time and resource and support to navigate the uploading of zoning and other what may be perceived by some smaller municipalities as cumbersome activities, because we do have a goal to try to get 100% of our municipalities in Tompkins County to be pro-housing communities. So, David, I don't know if there's anything else you want to mention. I know you're going to maybe present to TCOG at some point, but just wanted to highlight that as we talk about housing and affordability.
That's right. So I will be at the next TCOG meeting to present that program. I think we spoke at the last HED meeting about this program and the support that I have available to help municipalities with that. It's really a key to unlocking funds from the governor's office at this point. So if you're pursuing any state money, most of those programs require you to be pro-housing certified, and the ones that don't require it, they like to see that you are. And for supporting our nonprofits and our low-income housing development wing, they also like to see those projects be in a pro-housing community, so that helps them as well.
Thank you.
Irene?
Yeah, David, I had a couple of questions. And first of all, I appreciate Shauna's comments. I, too, have been a big fan of this program and appreciate that it is one of the ways that the county is able to leverage support for affordable housing projects. So, so first I want to clarify something that I think you said, but I'm not sure if I heard it right, that this project was actually authorized, approved, whatever, by the committee back in 2025, and now the bills come due. Is that
correct?
Okay.
Yeah. So we don't allow anyone to draw until they have a building permit because it's really hard to get the money back. So we want to give the money as close to time construction as starting as possible so that we're sure the units get built.
Okay. All right. So thanks. That's helpful. The other question that I have is bigger and not really, going to about clawing back for this project per se, but I do wonder, one home just doesn't seem like a lot as compared to why not a duplex or, some sort of triplex, multiplex. How does the decision get made as to what projects to fund? And so I'm just a little bit curious about how the money could be more leveraged.
Sure. So I think in answering that, it might be helpful to step back in history a little bit. And since I've been at the county on and off over the years, I have a little bit of that history. So when I started with the county before and ran this program, I was previously in Shauna Stevens' position as a housing planner. And at that time, we had a maximum of $30,000 a project for rental projects and a maximum of $40,000 a unit for sale projects. Over the years, we've kept that $30,000 per unit for rental projects, but increased first to 60 and now to 80,000 as the maximum per unit for sale projects. That's a decision that's made by the Program Oversight Committee that, again, the county appoints a third of. So that group, the coalition of the county, the city, and Cornell, makes the decisions for how the program is structured, for how points are awarded, for how the projects are evaluated, and they also decide how much money they put in. So we've been doing the program since 2009, and the amounts that we put in have been the same since 2009. We have this IDA money, which has really increased what we can fund. So in the past, we would have $400,000 a year, $200,000 from Cornell, $100,000 from the county, and $100,000 from the city. And when we're working with $400,000 and we get 8 applications, and some of them are for $300,000, we were, often not awarding close to what people asked, or making choices of not funding some projects and funding some other projects. It's been a good couple of years with all of the funds coming in from pilot projects. So right now we have over $2 million ready to disperse. We just closed our current round. We actually had our application review committee meeting today. The asks we got don't come close to exhausting that. So we have a little more funding, and I think that because of that, the committee has been a little more generous with projects kind of funding closer to their full ask. But that helps explain why we have more for a for sale project. The committee has said it's important. There's less other funding available for sale projects, and it's also something that a lot of people really want to see. It is a trade-off. The other kind of limiting factor is we have a per unit max and a per project max. So for rental projects, there's $30,000 per unit, but also $300,000 for the project total. So if you're talking about 100 units, you're running up against that 300,000 cap. So you actually have an average of 3,000 a unit instead of 30,000 a unit. Whereas most of our for sale projects are 1 to maybe 4 properties. And so we're often not bumping up against that cap. So that for sale properties have gotten much closer to their maximum per unit over the course of the program than rental properties. Now, of course, it's a trade-off, right? Like we could put $300,000 or $400,000 towards for sale. We could put it towards rental. We could get easily 10 times the units with that investment in rental. But also there's other funding available for that. It leverages a lot more with the rental as well. It's just a value judgment that the committee's made.
Thanks.
Just a time check, it is 8:40 and we do have 3 more resolutions. Any other questions or comments on this resolution? Okay, let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you.
David, thanks for staying. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
David, thank you for being here. Okay, I am next. Let me scroll through. We're on resolution F, correct? Yes. All right. I'd like to move resolution F, doc ID 14061, calling on the federal government to invest in economic development, housing, and infrastructure and deliver results through bipartisan action. And I would so move.
Seconded by Travis.
If I may.
Sure.
So I'm probably like everybody, regardless of the party that you affiliate with, pretty frustrated at the inaction of our federal government. I always think aspirationally you should look to the next level of government, for performance metrics and examples, and I think that they're lacking at the current moment. I chair the Housing and Economic Development Committee, so this is the lens that I look to action from, and I think we desperately need economic relief for everyday Americans, as we all are feeling, regardless of income levels or abilities or employment status, the challenges of rising daily costs, the challenge which we just talked about of the lack of housing and the lack of infrastructure that's required to deliver that housing and grow our economies in a smart and responsible way. So this was my attempt at trying to release some frustration through areas that are important to me personally, and I think priority areas for our county. And I would like our federal government, and maybe not all members, but at least if we could just get a few folks to figure out how to work in a bipartisan way. I know that there are several examples of our Congressman, Josh Riley, working on bipartisan bills as it relates to some ag issues that he's passionate about. And I would like to see more cooperation because ultimately, when there's partisanship involved, it's really the everyday American that is impacted the most. And so I would ask that if we decide to stand behind this resolution, we send this to all of the New York State delegation and ask them and really demand from them that they do better on behalf of New Yorkers and on behalf of Tompkins County residents, because the partisan gridlock is only costing Tompkins County residents, New York State residents, and really everybody across the country so much, and it's really for pretty petty reasons, in my opinion, but not to editorialize. So I would ask for your support.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, Judith? And I would just remind everyone, this is
Feel good.
a feel-good resolution, and I hope that we can be respectful of our staff, because they've been here since very early this morning, and we're already approaching almost 9 o'clock. Go ahead, Judith.
Thanks, Greg. I appreciate the intention behind this. And I appreciate this is a feel-good resolution. There are parts of it that make me not feel very good, and so I would move to amend the resolution to make it more comfortable for me. And specifically, I agree with the first 5 whereases. And then when I get to whereases 6 and 7, where it says that we're feeling the consequences of inaction in Washington as partisan division slows progress on issues that demand urgency and focus. I don't think we're feeling the consequences of inaction in Washington. I feel like we're feeling a lot of the consequences of action in Washington right now, and I don't think that partisan division is to blame, because in fact, one party controls all of the branches at this moment in the federal government. So I would like to strike that whereas and also the following whereas, and then I would be comfortable with the remainder of the resolution.
No objection.
The final 2 whereases.
So that would be, just to clarify, lines 20 through 23.
Correct.
I'm fine with that as the mover.
Okay, Travis? Okay, is anyone uncomfortable with that or would not support that? Okay. Those amendments are now part of the resolution. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay. Those against, please raise your hand.
I'm going to be partisan.
Okay. So that is 12 to 2. Okay.
If the verses were left in, I would vote.
Okay. Next, Greg?
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I was surprised for a moment by what I was hoping would be bipartisan support. But understand, all have positions to carry with them, and I'm trying to get through my digital technology here. I would propose moving the revised version that's been submitted in your red folders, and this is Resolution G as revised, endorsing state legislation A7620 and S7072, authorizing Tompkins County to amend General Municipal Law GML through the passage of a home rule law request to expand membership of the Tompkins County Industrial Development Agency, TCIDA, from 7 to 9 members, and I would move that again.
Okay. Seconded by Dan Wakeman.
This, I believe, is procedural in nature as requested by the Home Rule Council office in Albany. We've passed this, I think, 3 times already in HED, twice in the legislature, and this provides endorsement of the specific legislation that's currently being considered in Albany, and that's the reason why the the revised version, it doesn't substantively change the intent, but just clarifies the legislation being recognized for support.
And I actually feel really hopeful about it this year. In the past year, I think last year they ran out of time and it did not go in front of the Assembly. This year, it sounds like both Anna Kellis and Leah Webb's office have submitted it, and they think it's full steam ahead. So this is the last thing that we have to do to move it forward. And hopefully it will get the stamp of approval this year and will take effect January 1st of next year.
And again, this is to grow the IDA to be more representative of community stakeholders that may be impacted or have knowledge of impacts of, that's probably a better way to say it, that have knowledge of potential impacts or benefits that IDA projects would be, predominantly school districts or other participants that may have interests in the economic growth and the impact of those decisions.
Okay, any questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you.
Nothing else to report.
Okay, any other questions for Greg? Okay, thank you, Greg. Next is Planning, Energy, and Environmental Quality Committee. Irene Weiser, Chair.
Thanks. I actually am going to turn it over to Adam to report on what happened in the committee, but I do want to just bring up a couple of things really quickly. One is I sent to your emails earlier, well, I guess it was late last week, a really fabulous report by our Water Resources Council that was sent to the DEC for public comment in regards to the inlet dredging project that's been proposed and seems to be, thankfully, moving forward. It is scaled back quite a bit from the original proposal from back in 2011, but at least they're doing something. And but it was important to put in protections for hydrilla and making sure that that doesn't get spread and some other things. So I'd encourage you to take a look at that email that I sent if you're interested in that topic. The other is I just received email today from from a few different sources regarding a bill that's previously, there was a bill by Assemblymember Kellis and Senator Webb related to protection of the lake in regards to salt mining under the lake and concerns there, but the bills didn't ever line up. Now the bills line up, and so this legislature previously in 2023 passed a resolution supporting the initiative. There isn't time to get this on the peak agenda or to wait for a couple of weeks till this body meets again before the legislative session in Albany ends. And so Adam is going to be working on a letter or a memo of support that will be a sign-on letter that we'll send around over the next few days, hopefully get it in early next week for you to review and sign. So just heads up and keep your eyes out for that, and I hope you'll sign it. And with that, Adam, you want to report on what happened at the committee? And I just want to thank Adam. I did review the video, and he did a great job in my absence in running the meeting. So thanks, Adam.
Thank you, Irene. Okay, so I will keep this quick. We had a pretty packed meeting on May 7th. We had 5 presentations. We also had 2 advisory board appointments to the Water Resources Council. We had a presentation, 2 presentations from the planning department, one on the NYSEG rate case, very quick update. Then we had a presentation from Terry on the 2024 greenhouse gas emissions inventory. We had a report from the Agriculture and Farmland Protection Board on the Agricultural District Annual Open Enrollment Period. It's the thing that we had a public hearing for at the beginning of this meeting. We had a resolution from the Water Resources Council, which is in the consent agenda, recognizing the Cayuga-Seneca Canal as part of the Cayuga Lake watershed. This is a resolution that was passed out to a few municipalities, including us, and I believe passing this would allow municipality in Seneca County to get access to more state grants. Then we finally had a presentation from the Soil and Water Conservation District, which I thought was very interesting. We talked about a lot about their programs and their budget. One thing that really stood out to me is that they said that for every $1 we give them, they're able to bring in $12 in state and federal grants, which I think is very impressive. And with that, that is everything I have to report.
Great, thank you, Adam. Any questions or comments? Greg?
Yeah, I'm going to ask a question of maybe Maury and Katrina as it relates to advisory boards. And it's not that I object to what was presented by the Water Resource Council, but my question is, our advisory boards are to advise and provide the legislature with information for the legislature to discuss, debate, mull over, and act upon. Is it appropriate for advisory boards to be writing essentially policy statements or requests of state or federal agencies as an advisory board of the legislature when the legislature has not debated or discussed what the advisory board is presenting? Because I could see in a few instances this potentially creating conflicts where advisory boards are speaking of a voice not representative of the legislature. I will take, for example, the Strategic Tourism Planning Board, right? Is it appropriate for them to submit a policy statement to something other than the legislature? Because as I read the Water Resource Council's questions, and I believe they're good questions that we should be discussing as a legislature, it's presented in a way that it's a division or department or something other than an advisory body to the legislature. And I guess I would just ask for clarity on how advisory boards should be interacting with outside agencies other than the legislature, not for disagreement, but just for understanding and to make sure that the legislative voice that's represented around this table is what's being represented on behalf of the county.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is there's definitely a gray line sometimes, and I think there have been some oversteps of our advisory boards, and I think that we've experienced advisory boards presenting resolutions or proclamations directly to our clerks. That's inappropriate. They actually need to go to a legislator and say, hey, Judith, can you bring this forward in the GO committee? Are you comfortable? You know, can you provide some feedback? It's our jobs to create policy. Do we listen to them as far as recommendations, or, you know, if they're the ones that are really involved and in the trenches? Yes, we can, but that's obviously our choice. They have no right to establish our agendas. They have no right to put things on our agendas, and it has to come from legislators. Thanks for bringing that up, Greg, because or departments. I think it also puts our staff in a really awkward position of saying, you're going to have to put this back to one of the legislators. And so as far as you all that are sitting around this table, if you're a liaison or a member of that advisory board, just make sure you have a talk with them, because I think we've seen historically sometimes an overstep of some of these advisory committees that are supposed to advise us, and they take it a little too far sometimes. And I don't want to discredit the great work that they do, because they're volunteers and they're super knowledgeable, but I think it probably goes without saying that we need to make sure that it's legislators that are bringing forth policy.
Yeah, and again, please don't take my comments to be anything other than just a sort of procedural check and balance. I'm very much in support of what the Water Resource Council is asking for consideration of. I want to understand process and what's most appropriate for our advisory boards to be doing.
And I think they can, I've always seen it as they can make recommendations, and this body can either choose to move it forward or not move it forward. And that's been the case for Office of Human Rights. It's been the case for STPB whenever it comes to budget time. Those are our options. Yeah. So any questions on clarity that's needed? And I know, again, we have 8 new legislators. And so I think sometimes there can be a lot of gray area. And I've also worked with advisory boards that can sometimes be a little bit pushy. And so I want to make sure that the new people understand what their role is and what your role is. Irene.
Yeah, I appreciate the conversation and the guidance. I do want to raise that this was a particularly unusual situation in that the original timeline published by the DEC to provide comments was literally 2 weeks from when they published a notice that comments were due. Our planning department reached out to DEC and asked them to come to our peak meeting to answer questions, and they were on the agenda to do that, and things likely would have played out differently had that happened. DEC canceled. So there wasn't opportunity for our peak committee or the Water Resource Council to have these questions and concerns addressed ahead of time. And then meanwhile, there was a comment deadline that had been revised and happened, on the day that I sent out the comments. So I was in touch with Cynthia Brock. I know that she's been involved on this issue, both when she was involved in the city and, capable leadership at the WRC and other people there who have been involved in this issue for many years, and also props to our planning department. So I hear you, and it may not always be possible to bring it to this body for discussion, is I guess where.
I think if they're going to represent the Tompkins County Legislature, though, it has to be.
Yeah, they didn't. Yeah. They represented that they were the advisory board. Yeah. They didn't say they were speaking on behalf of the legislature. They said that they were their advisory board and that these were their comments.
Yeah.
I tend to think that's kind of a fine distinction. It is, since Greg had put the question partially to me, I was going to say I agree with what both of you said on this subject. And it could be problematic if somebody who's receiving a communication from an advisory board thinks that they have apparent authority to take some binding position on behalf of the county. So it's very important that advisory boards not do that, that they carry out their function of advising the legislature, not taking action in lieu of the legislature.
Thank you.
Veronica.
I just wanted to add to this conversation that looking at an advisory board's bylaws can be helpful. I pulled up the Water Resources Council bylaws, and I don't find anything glaring to add to this conversation on this point, but this does list out their powers and duties. Also, and different advisory boards they are not all created equal. Some are just, their basis for existing is completely within just an act of the legislature saying we'd like to have a board that advises us on this. Some of them advise the legislature, but also they're like a commission that is based in state law. The Water Resources Council, apparently I'm reading, was it exists at, and WDRC members serve at the pleasure of the Tompkins County Legislature, so it's like one of the former, except that one of its duties is to act as the Tompkins County Water Quality Coordinating Committee under New York State guidelines. That might not be relevant here, but it's just, I think in general, all the advisory boards do have bylaws, and they are worth a check when questions like this arise for specific things.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments? Let's move on to Public Safety Committee. Travis Brooks, Chair.
We haven't met since our last meeting. We meet on the 26th. The jail numbers, 54 in-house, 3 boarded out, 0 boarded in. We do have a resolution number H, doc ID 14029, contingent fund appropriation, district attorney, cost of forensic psychologist for trial proceedings.
Seconded by Lee Shirtliff.
All right, this is a resolution for $9,000 to pay for a forensic psychologist for a trial that's actually happening this week. Folks have asked, why did this come so late? It had to go through 2 committees, and it's not something that the DA plans for in the fall budget season. These things come up every now and again. They're very unusual. So when he found out it was needed, we had to go through public safety and then another committee to get to this point.
Thank you, Travis. Any questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Unanimous, thank you.
That's all I got.
Okay, any questions for Travis? Next, let's move on to Workforce Diversity and Inclusion Committee. Veronica Pillar, Chair.
Thank you. WDIC has not met since our last meeting, and we will next be meeting on Wednesday, May 27th at 9:30 a.m.
Okay, any questions for Veronica? Are there any individual member filed resolutions? Let's go ahead and pass the, or not pass, the minutes. That was suggestive, right? The minutes of previous meeting, May 5th, 2026. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Christie, seconded by Travis. Any corrections, comments? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. That's unanimous. Thank you all. No other, oh, what is this? Oh, okay. There being no further business before this body, this meeting is adjourned. The script here.
I was also pulling out
for the next chair. It's right here.